And that's when she said, can I ask you something? I said, what? Why is it okay for people to molest me, but it's not okay for me to like a boy? I'm like, what? Because he's not uncomfortable coming to me and saying, I failed again, Mom. Yeah. Pray for me. Yeah. He's not uncomfortable with that.
That is no longer, that's how he's making it okay. Because he does it and then he thinks he's holding himself accountable by coming to Mom and saying, hey, this happened, Mommy.
Yeah. And I said, you are on Joshua Duggar's trail. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what happened to him.
You will get to a point where you're that bad.
Because this is where rapists start.
Yeah. And the only way Mom knows how to communicate her anger is by grabbing you and making you look at her and screaming at you.
After everything that I went through with her, and you watched me go through it. You watched me.
And you've also shared with me how Mom has like physically harmed, like before this incident. Yeah. Physically, like slapped.
She
had her backed into a corner.
She backed into a corner. I tried getting in the middle of it, and she basically shoved me aside and slapped. And I just grabbed. I said, "This is not the way you handle things like this, Mom."
I know Reagan made a big issue about children can't consent, but children can say no. Children can say, again, unless it's a parent and they're in fear. But if it's another child.
Reagan hit everything right on the nail, guys. And if you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. Haley was right. Reagan is right.
Add ourselves to this screen.
Hello. Let's see, do full screen. We are live.
I see our audio there.
All right. So hopefully you can hear us. I don't have my phone pulled up. Check.
We're a bit behind. This is probably going to be one of the most intensive ones as far as
this episode was an audible. We were never planning on originally doing this episode.
Yeah, we weren't planning to, and then this is kind of your episode. Like you've been. And simply because, okay, for starters, I'm Haley Ram. This is Reagan Ram, my husband. We've been detailing the abuse that has gone on in the Long family home. So my childhood home growing up, if you knew the Long family singers, Treasures from a Shoebox, The Long Way to Go, anything to do with that, then you are familiar with how my family was. Long family singers. And we were set up as the paragon of the perfect Christian family. And in the last, 17 videos now? Mm-hmm. Is this video 17 or?
I think this is 18.
Or is it
no, 16? It's 17. It's
17. Right. So in the last 17 videos, I've been kind of setting the record straight to kind of point to the fact that we had the false gospel. We were raised in a cult. There was much abuse going on. Despite what some people have tried to state, the abuse did not end in the 90s or the early 2000s. And it wasn't just
or the 2010s
or the 2010s
or the 2020s.
The 2020s. It's been going on this entire time. And every time we think it stops, it continues. And we were wrong. And
no one's gotten professional help.
No one has gotten professional help. There are some who've gotten help in certain aspects. So codependency, for example. But the ones who desperately need it have not gotten help that they need. A lot of the victims have not gotten help. So
what made us decide to do this video was when your sister Emily emailed us and was threatening to sue us. So in this video episode, we're going to talk about how Haley wasn't the only one who was abused, right? This has been mostly just Haley's story. We've been trying to keep all your siblings out of it.
Mackenzie's joined in to share her, to confirm what she knows.
For this episode, we're actually going to share a boatload of audio messages and screenshots and videos backing up that everything Haley has said is the truth. You probably heard some of those in the intro if you watched that. So we're also going to go into why you know, an enmeshed family, which is kind of the theme running through all this, is kind of like a drug and can make you do like horrible things that you would never otherwise do, like cover up abuse, defend abuse, or even like threaten to sue your sibling who is actually speaking up about the abuse.
Yeah, that was one reason why, because I was like, look, this is exactly why people don't talk. Siblings don't talk, and the national statistics on sibling abuse is so far below. It's so underreported, and because
to also share awareness about
it is so it is so shameful to be a part of, especially if you are in a smaller community. Everybody knows everything, and people will cast judgment, this kind of thing. And there's not a lot of grace for when people do come forward, for the families, the entire family. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of highlight why this is so difficult to speak up about.
And at one point in time,
not just because you've been through the abuse, that in itself makes it extremely difficult, but the response from the family that you were a part of, the family system you were a part of, is often what makes it the worst part. So
it's also going to be a very difficult episode to listen to. So
it will be difficult. So if you were planning on,
viewer discretion is advised.
Viewer discretion is advised.
So we're going to be sharing more evidence that this is all true, because so that for once and for all, people can stop saying that Haley's crazy or making this up.
Or that I'm mentally ill.
Well, crazy means mentally ill. All right. Why can I not? Okay. But yeah, this isn't even the full, like, if you think this is full of scorched earth, it's not. We're still holding a lot back. And trying to avoid using names as much as possible, and we won't be using audio clips where siblings admit to rape and other crimes. And so we're completely done with the cover-up, and we still aren't convinced the abuse has stopped because it's still being trivialized and no one is getting professional help. So we never intended to make this episode, but that all changed when Haley's sister Emily sent us an email threatening to sue us for defamation if we don't delete the audio clips from our videos. Note, she just wanted the audio clips taken out, not the rest of our videos. So here's what that looked like. Here's the email. She said, Haley, I've watched several of your videos recently, and I've come to realize, and we knew that because you were in a group with her and she was talking. She would watch one episode and tell you her thoughts and how she agreed with everything. And she said, I've come to realize you were using on audio. Now you've come to realize you're using an audio clip of a private meeting that you were never given permission to use. We were, because she sent us the audio. Everyone knew they were being recorded. Everyone consented to being recorded.
This isn't how we intended to use it originally.
No, we were just wanting to be included in what was going on.
When it wasn't being dealt with properly among the family, it was like, look, this is all, everybody's going back into hiding, and this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work because there's too many there's too many other families that have been affected already. Already.
It's already started to spread. Already. We're trying to stop the spread.
And I can't in good conscience keep quiet anymore. I'm done.
So you were never given permission by the people in the audio to be posted in your videos. I mean, that's true, and you're also defaming Pastor Johnson using the audio clip without even knowing all the facts of what you were talking about. That's another thing. They keep saying we don't know all the facts.
We don't know all the facts.
But then they'll also go and say, I never knew that was happening. I never knew that was happening. Yeah, we've actually been talking to people.
Who doesn't know all the facts?
We know.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, they don't know all the facts. So you're saying you need to remove all the audio clips from your videos, just the audio clips, because if you do not, legal action will be taken against you. Pastor Johnson has already contacted an attorney for defamation, and if the use of the audio is not discontinued and removed from your videos, then we will as well. We appreciate your understanding and cooperation. I'm pretty sure that was just a bluff to try and scare us, and that failed because we were already prepared for this and had retained a lawyer. And so in order for something to be defamatory, it has to be false. And everything we're saying is true. So it cannot be defamatory, and we're going to prove that in this video. They also have to show proof of damages. I don't think there's been really any damages, like financial damages that I know of. And so here's a quote from our lawyer. I think he was quoting something else. I can't remember what it was. But, he said, true statements that are not readily capable of being proven false, and statements of pure opinion are protected from defamation actions by the First Amendment. So yay, America. I know your family is very pro First Amendment and patriotism. Our lawyer not only assured us that we are not committing any defamation, but we also are within our rights to share everything that we're going to share in this video. And in the words of the Long Family Singers themselves, we are just an Unger. This is freedom. Where grace abounds and evil dies, the truth abounds above the lies. I may have used abounds twice. Is that the actual lyric? I don't know. I might have typed it in wrong. Maybe it is. It's only found one way, and here we are today.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Those are the lyrics. Yeah.
All right. I wouldn't have written it that way, but okay. America. All right. Where's the video? I was going to play up too many videos. Look it up here.
Terrorist, your game is through. 'Cause now you have to answer to America. Yeah.
So thanks, Emily, and thanks to you. We are going to be sharing even more audio clips and screenshots and videos and a whole lot more evidence to back up everything Haley is saying is true, because this has to stop, as we talked about. So this is our response. Actually, I was responding for Haley since she's got more important things to do. I said, I'll respond to your email, but first, can you tell me what changed? You've watched my videos in the past and supported them, saying you agreed with what was in them. What changed for you? And she said, well, I did agree with some of the things you said before. Your recent videos have become more aggressive and attacking people close to me, especially Pastor Johnson. I mean, that was after the video we did with Mackenzie. So
yeah,
maybe she has a problem with Mackenzie saying that. And I am sorry my silence has been misinterpreted as support. I have not reached out beforehand because it hasn't been as ruthless as his last few videos. And I was crazy busy with school. So it's not that anything's untrue. It's just too mean.
well, truth hurts.
Also,
and facts don't care about your feelings.
we kind of don't like abuse and rape and stuff. But if you're okay with that, okay. But
I think abuse is ruthless. I'm sorry. That's my personal.
So yeah, then tries to scare us again. So I'm gonna pull up some clips showing that she agrees with us. I just realized there was his name in there. Okay, so let's play some clips. There's so many clips here. All right. Which one is which?
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
All right, here's one.
Dad needs to hear this, and you're not gonna tell him.
All right, I think I missed the beginning.
And like, I'm listening to it all, and I'm like, but this is all true. Dad needs to hear this, and you're not gonna tell him. I'm like, what is pastors like? Yes, we can give grace, but what the heck?
And
I think the fact that this is all getting completely blown up instead of hidden, I think it's good. I think it's very good.
All right, I think I know one somewhere.
Get another one.
You have something to say? Sure.
No, I said you had one more video.
I can't remember.
The next day, I'm like, I was.
No, that's a different one.
That's a different one. No, and while it may seem somewhat strange that someone who was completely on board, I think you're going to cover this, how everyone was on board. But this is tied to enmeshment. This is one person. They can be like, yeah, I'm on your side, and then all it can take is just a little bit, one conversation with the person, the ringleader, which would be our mother, and they get sucked back in.
Yes.
And then it's like they
there'll be a lot more audios that back that up too. So I replied to her saying, what specifically do you find aggressive and ruthless? What specific clips do you have a problem with? Do you remember that everyone knew they were being recorded and consented to being recorded, and that the recordings were voluntarily sent to us? Do you have any evidence that anything I've said is untrue? If anything I said is untrue, I'm happy to recant it. So here's the proof that actually she's the one who sent the audios to us in the emails.
Yeah, I didn't obtain these inappropriately.
Yeah, we didn't steal them or anything. So she said, Haley, this is not a debate. I'm asking you to recant what you've said. I'm not asking you to recant what you've said. So again, she still agrees with everything. I'm just asking you to remove the recordings of a private meeting you were only given access to for you to personally know what was going on. Well, that wasn't even stated. It was just, here's the audios. So just wanted to take them down. And just real quick, I do want to just play. Everyone knew they're being recorded.
We're waiting to record it.
Yeah, there.
All right, so we're recording it. All right, so
That's why I've been telling everybody record conversations, man. Because and like I called mom out, you know, I on actually 2 inconsistencies. Made it a point in my heart to just like, okay, if I see an inconsistency, I'm gonna start calling it out.
I was trying to be very careful what I said because everybody's going to listen to this. So I had to make sure that there was no slander or anything. So
That's a really great point that Emily made at the end there, because since it was being recorded, everyone was on their best behavior and very careful with what they were saying, because we all know, right? Sometimes we can say stuff we don't mean, or we don't phrase it the right way if we don't know we're being recorded. But that wasn't the case here because everyone knew they were being recorded. So everyone, like Emily said, she was very careful in what she said. So how did we arrive at this point? Well, we're going to back up just a little bit. What kind of triggered all this? And so where we left off last time in our last episode, talked about all that stuff, and he already covered that. Growing up in an abusive home.
Yeah.
We had Terry in our home, and he had admitted that he had never been repentant and was never actually a Christian.
Yep.
So we baptized him in our tub, and he seemed to be a completely different person. You'll hear an audio later where Corey was saying the same thing. It seemed like he was completely changed, but then he backtracked. And while this was happening, he was also telling us some really disturbing things that were still going on at home. But again, right, we thought we always find out about stuff like 2 years in the past.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it was 2 years ago and they're better now. And then you come to find out two more years go by and we can find out, oh, they were still doing stuff then. But it's been 2 years now and they're done now. And oh, it's 2 years and they're done now.
With the one exception being with the assault and battery that happened in 2018. That was correct.
Right. There were a few isolated events.
Which is why we urged them, you either get Terry help or we're calling the police. I still regret not calling the police.
So then we found out that there was still abuse going on. And for a time, all the siblings were united in this goal to get the kids out and to get the parents professional help.
Yep.
But along the way, that kind of all just fell apart. Hence, right, this is what happens with enmeshed families.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And then, so here's just real brief. We've kind of defined this in a bunch of other episodes, and we got so much to cover. I'm kind of trying to go fast. But enmeshment describes family relationships that lack boundaries, such as those in which roles and expectations are confused. Learning how to set boundaries, developing a sense of self, and seeking professional support may help. So usually it originates from some sort of trauma or illness. Addiction, mental illness, a seriously ill child who is overprotected. However, because it is usually a generational pattern, you may not be able to pinpoint the origins of enmeshment in your family because we tend to parent the way our parents parented unless we make an intentional decision to do things differently.
Right.
So here's kind of a bunch of the symptoms. So you feel free to
pause the video
and check that out
after the fact.
Yeah, if you want to go through this, because
Because turns out this has been actually really helpful for other people to discover this. And don't get us wrong, we are all about healthy bonding within the family, close knit families.
Right, but that's not what the enmeshed
family is. This is.
It places unnecessary and harmful, damaging burdens on the children. For example, they have the responsibility of taking care of the parents, often when they aren't emotionally mature enough to do so. You'll hear in the video like being told like you're responsible for our marriage, or you're my therapist, of like teenage children, like they're responsible for the health and well-being of their parents and their marriage. So role confusion, children are expected to take care of their parents and or are treated as friends or confidants rather than, children that need nurtured and loved. Prioritizing their parents' needs above their own and a lack of respect for their feelings, needs, and individuality. So we need to show why it's so hard for victims in an abusive enmeshed family to speak out and actually get help. And it's our intention with this video that those who have been silenced can find the help and courage to finally speak up and get help. So
okay, so yeah, you already have that.
Yeah, so 2018 was the first time we actually thought about calling the police, because it was after Terry committed child battery. And let's see. Let me go ahead and play that.
Yeah, that was a horrific phone call that I received from a sibling who called me up crying, telling me what had happened. And I thought, oh my gosh, he said he wasn't going to ever do it again. And he's done it again.
You had witnessed him do it.
Because I had witnessed it in 2012 against a different sibling. And that was pretty horrific. And that was, oh my gosh. And it had already happened to me.
And speaking of, right,
in 2001. I had already had battery committed against myself.
He's done it at least 3 times that we know, so it's not exactly an isolated event.
No.
Another theme through this whole series is how you can get, when you're growing up constantly abused and there's no safety for you, you can get complex PTSD and dissociative amnesia, where you actually forget what happened. So, for example, the sibling you saw and another sibling saw get totally beaten up basically by his father as like a young child. He doesn't like even remember that.
No, he has no idea that happened. The only reason he was made aware of it was because I asked him, do you remember? He said, I don't think about it and I don't want to remember it.
So anyway, here's someone telling the story of that child battery.
And I think honestly, there's been a lot of people saying like, you're attacking mom or you're attacking dad. And again, I'm going to take that back to who did you have issues with? Because we were told growing up, like I heard mom say to my face, you are the only reason I'm with your father. I would leave him, but I can't because of you children. So we were the problem growing up. When when dad beat the crap out of Destiny and Isaac, and I'm the only person who witnessed that event. It was back in, how old was I? 18, so like 2017. The children were laughing too loud, and I could sense dad was getting frustrated, and they were being foolish, as he called it. Anytime you try to have joy, you were being foolish. Yeah. He was like, stop it. And I tried to say, like, Michael or Destiny, can you guys stop? And just 3 seconds later, dad had the metal spatula and just picked Michael up and started beating him wherever he could find a spot on his body, and Destiny. And mom was upstairs, and Mackenzie was second witness because she heard the screaming, and she ran downstairs and started screaming at dad and said, what did you do? And he was like, none of your business. And he's like, you don't have a right to stop me. And she shrieked, if I don't, then who will? And I didn't do a thing. I was just completely petrified. Dad brushed past me to the sand. I'm like, why didn't I grab him? He probably would have beaten me. But mom was at the top of the stairs the whole time. Never came down. Her children are screaming at the top of their lungs, Daddy, no. And she was on the computer, click, click, click. What just happened? And I lost it. I was like, I can't do this. I have to get out of here. And I went to mom that night with Mackenzie, and I said, I refuse to live like this anymore. You've got to get help. But mom, I watched my mother take that opportunity to flip the script, and dad was in me. That is why they went to 12 stones. It was not to get mom help. It was not to help the marriage. It was to go fix dad. That was the narrative growing up. Fix daddy, we can fix the family. And so dad was under immense pressure to try to live up to standards that my mom held for him. For instance, she wouldn't let him leave any of the Bible studies because she always held it over his head. I know a little bit more scripture than we were always working. I know that because she told me. Your dad can't leave you because he doesn't have enough time to spend time in scriptures. He just has to go work. That's okay, I'll leave you guys. She wasn't leading us, she was just doing like Bible verses with us. But she was spiritually leading the family because she genuinely loves teaching, but kicked out of the spot, and you can take it. So growing up, there was constantly like, and Stephanie and I literally sat down and were like, whose side are you? You team mom or team dad? When we were like 18, and I was like, I think I'm in the middle because like you can't please either of them. Like you're a rebel if you try to do anything, like if you don't wear like jeans and like jean dresses or whatever. That's like like if you have a feature on your body that's beautiful, dad will find a way to objectify it and tell you you're immodest. Like it didn't matter what you wore, you could never be modest enough for dad. But then if you went on mom's side, you were having the wrong emotions. So if you expressed an emotion of like, I don't feel right. For instance, I told her that I didn't like Jeremy Scott, who molested Destiny when she was 7 in the church nursery. And I said, I remember, this is how Destiny remembered that memory, was I said, it's interesting that mom never let us tell her who we were uncomfortable with, because I tried to say, Jeremy Scott makes me uncomfortable. And she said, we don't judge people how they look. He's got an amazing testimony, and he was on me for years. But I had done that to Destiny around that time that I said that. And I'm looking back like, I expressed someone I didn't feel safe with you, yet you let me be around him at the Freetown Festival. And so there have been things growing up where we did express like, Mom, Dad, we're not okay with this. And then it got to the point where if Mom could tell us that her marriage would end if we told anyone, basically, about the beating with Haley and Stephanie witnessed the beating with Samuel, that Dad said, if you ever tell your mom, she will divorce you. And so Haley and Stephanie shaking her head, she remembers this memory. She and Haley were told, shut your mouths. And those kept escalating by their dad. Then whenever they beat, when Destiny...
So anyway, you get the picture. It goes on and on. But it's not just Haley saying this. And she's kind of saying all the other stuff that you've said in your other video series.
Mm-hmm.
So child battery refers to the non-accidental physical attack or injury inflicted upon a child by someone responsible for their care. This definition encompasses both minimal and severe, even fatal injuries. Thankfully, none of that happened. And includes both direct acts, such as hitting or striking, and in some jurisdictions, reckless or negligent contact that results in harm to a child. So key aspects include intentional physical harm, so repeatedly striking them out of anger, and the perpetrator, the offense is committed by a parent, guardian, or caregiver.
Yeah, this happened at least 3 times, probably more. And
so yeah, as you heard, Cheryl knew about it and wasn't going to do anything about it until we got on the phone with her and told her we were going to call the police unless she did something. So they finally decided to go to 12 Stones, which was a Christian counseling center or something. So here's the text messages we had with her about that. So Cheryl says he agreed to counseling. Then right after our conversation, his manager called him into his office regarding his anger problem. Oh my word. So Haley says, yeah, that's good news. Wow, just wow. Yeah, it's a start. I need family counseling too. Says something else. The kids may be able to look back at Monday night's incident as the catalyst for change. And I can't see the bottom of that slide because that's in the way.
That's in the way.
Oh well. Okay, there we go. Monday afternoon, he was still not agreeable to counseling. So he was still going to go to counseling until the boss actually told him about his anger problem. And she says, let's see, kind of this. Cheryl confirms that Terry would hurt the children as well. So this was after, I guess, 12 Stones. So Cheryl was saying, we both learned so much at 12 Stones how Terry is not to see his role as the hammer of authority, and how being submissive is not about me not having a voice. I've had no say in anything, which also isn't true, but not how the money is spent. Well, that might be true. Not how the house was purchased, not the vehicle we drive. I have felt so unnecessary in this marriage, and I have begged him to tell me what the heck is my role. So anyway, that goes back to the whole ATI teaching.
Yeah.
And so she said, even when you were telling me I had to stop him from hurting the children again, I knew what you were saying was right, but what was I supposed to do? I felt like I had no voice. So that's just crazy.
To some extent, I can understand, because, I mean, this is technically domestic violence, and my mother has been through domestic violence many times in her life. So I don't know if it comes down to a matter of this is just, she's conditioned to respond this way, to freeze and to just not care. But she'd always said that if he hurt her kid, she would leave him. So, and he knew that, which is why Terry swore us all to secrecy in 2012 and said, if your mom ever finds out, she'll divorce me.
It turns out that wasn't true, though.
Yeah, exactly. Because I did call her up in 2018 and I think I sent her a message of what happened in 2012. And I finally unburdened myself and was like, look, because she said she wasn't going to do anything.
Unless it happened again.
Unless it happened again.
So that's another thing we hear a lot is if it happens again, if it happens again.
If it happens again, we'll get help. If
And
it
then
happens again,
it
it'll help.
happens
This has
again.
been happening for 30 freaking years. Like 30 years going on, almost 30 years, stuff has been going on. Like, no joke. So when is the next time gonna ever be enough? When does that end?
So then after that, we heard things were better. We're like, oh, that's great. And then
To some extent.
Yeah.
There were blips here and there,
Mhm.
but not anything
So
that
we
we
kinda-
heard going to the police.
Right.
over.
So we kind of talked about this last episode, that we had a really good relationship with Terry. We had him in our house 3 different times for 2 weeks at a time.
Mhm.
And we were very frank
We were
and
very
open.
honest and open and telling him, hey, look, your kids need help. You are in, you have a very limited window of time
Mhm.
to try to change things.
Right. Yeah, he was so backward focused, like, oh, I messed up. Like, well, you still have a lot of kids at home. Like, just focus on what you can do now to help them. Like,
And
focus
he
on
would
loving
get
them.
fired up. He would get in. He'd be like, all right, I'm going home to love my kids. And then, I don't know.
Then we'd hear disturbing things.
Very disturbing things. So I don't know how much of this was him just continuing to be a narcissist
Mhm.
up until the very end.
And he fooled us, or
fooling us, because I do know at some point he turned and stabbed us in the back too.
Mhm.
So I don't know how much of that was him just telling us what we wanted to hear so that we'd get off his back. Or I don't know, which is very exhausting to try to figure out. So I don't know. All I know is that things didn't exactly change for the better. Some things did, but not everything.
So yeah, so we still, eventually in 2023, we heard that abuse was still going on, and the girls who were 18 and 16 at the time did not feel safe, and we were livid. And so we decided that enough was enough, and weren't going to stop until the kids were safe. And it wasn't just us; every single sibling united with us to get the youngest siblings help, but eventually all fell apart. And so Emily was, and some of the other siblings are going around trying to like figure out what's going on, interviewing the children in the home to figure out what was really going on. And so here's one of them. Do you want to play this or not?
Does it mention names? Because the one that's the one thing.
I don't remember. I know I tried to block out some names.
As many
names as possible. But sometimes I miss them. So I don't know if you want to play that or not.
But what's your hesitation?
You seemed a little off. Are you okay?
Oh, I'm just a little terrified.
Okay. So let's see. Maybe we can play some of this.
Because while I still that's courage. Still doing the thing in the face of being terrified. Doesn't mean you're the absence of fear, or the quote is courage is not the absence of fear. It's just continuing to do the thing even though you feel terrified. So I'm just.
Mom was committing or trying to, threatening to commit suicide, and Mackenzie was like, I wish there was something I could do. And anytime we go to the doctor, it's always, she's never dealt with depression, she's never dealt with anxiety, and I have burn marks on my arms from burning myself on the oven, and she's like, she immediately makes sure that she tells the doctor, those aren't suicide attempts, those are simply from the oven. I just want you to know that. And like, Mom grabbed her again and she whipped around and she was like, stop touching me, please. She was like, I am scared that you are going to actually hurt me again when you do this. And she started backing up, and Mom was like, I've never hurt you like that. And Mom was like, I never knew she was molested. And I said, I told you 9 years ago when it happened. And Mom was like, I didn't know anything about this. And like, Mom went straight from yelling at her about that to immediately hugging and I'm so sorry, I love you, I didn't know this happened, and just all kind and everything, like a completely different person. And that was came over to me and she was just sobbing. The amount of things that she's had to endure is unbearable and ridiculous. And she and I both have been told over and over, basically to shove down our feelings and never express them. Yeah. To never tell anybody. Because if we do, God forbid, everybody will know how imperfect our family is. And every time that something happens with Mom and Mom finds out about it, don't tell anybody, I'll deal with it. And she says she's dealing with it, but the only thing she's doing is giving him scripture verses to memorize, and
he needs actual help.
He's not getting any help.
Yeah.
And it's getting worse. Like, extensively worse. And I told Mom, I was like, we don't have any doors. None whatsoever. I don't even feel comfortable sleeping anymore. And she was like, you don't need doors. I don't want that kind of privacy in my house. And I was like,
we need protection.
So you're okay with coming up here anytime he wants and looking at us while we're changing or sleeping. You're okay with that. And my problem is, she's more worried about us trying to find love from another guy because we've never found that in our home, instead of actually going to the root of the problem of why we feel like we have to. No guy influence in our home that actually genuinely cares about us. So the only way he knows how to communicate his anger is by throwing something or hurting you. And the only way Mom knows how to communicate her anger is by grabbing you and making you look at her
and screaming
at you.
And you've also shared with me how Mom has, like, physically harmed, like, before this incident.
Yeah.
Physically, like, slapped.
She
had her backed into a corner.
She backed into a corner, and I tried getting in the middle of it, and she basically shoved me aside and slapped. And I just grabbed her. I said, this is not the way you handle things like this, Mom. And she was like, I don't care. I just can't do this. I can't do this. And then she left.
And her discipline is not, like, spanking you.
No,
or
it's in
like
the
physical,
moment. Physical. Yeah.
Like smacking you or like berating you and screaming at you at the top of her lungs in your face.
It's getting worse, and the older that Mom is getting, the worse her mind is getting. The more she is becoming like Grandma Lois. And she refuses to get help. She refuses to even admit that she needs help. She refuses that there's anything even wrong with her.
It's disassociative. She sees her behavior as one way, and we see it a completely different way. Like, if you show her that video that you took, she would be like, and unless, like, if we told her that happened, she would tell us that never happened.
Exactly. And was like threatening to kill herself and was like, I'm done. I want to die. I want out of this. I have stopped taking medication because I don't want to live anymore. And it was just one thing after another. But when I come home, it's like immediately I have to pretend like I'm happy all the time. I have to pretend like everything's okay 100% of the time. And Mackenzie told me, she was like, when I talked to Mom about it, she brushed it off like it was nothing. Like, oh, Destiny's making it a big deal. And that's my problem. Is any time that I try to tell people something that happened and it gets back to Mom, it's immediate. She's making a big deal out of it. With the doctor, with my siblings, with everybody. It's like, since I've grown up the dramatic one, everything I say is now a lie. And I can't even go to a doctor's appointment and give them the truth. Because if I try, I know that I will get it when I get home. And, you know, my coworkers were like, well, can't you tell your doctor that, like, you want your mom taken out of the room because you are 18. She can't legally take you anymore. And I was like, Corey said, she was like, but she'll get in trouble when she gets home. It's like Mom's so scared that her secret is going to be found out, that everybody's going to know that we're all messed up because of her parenting, hers and Dad's. And when Dad was beating me with a metal rod, and we ran upstairs, and Isaac got into the middle of it, Mom just came downstairs like, what's going on? She did nothing. Like, Mackenzie and Corey were the ones hugging me, and she was just standing there like, sorry it happened to you. Like, I'm not gonna get my husband help. I'm not gonna fix this. This is just almost like it was normal. I've argued with her over things that have actually happened. She's like, you're just being dramatic. She's told people she is the dramatic one in our family. If you can't tell. And I'm like, wow, thanks, Mom. Way to make me feel good. I feel so bad for her. Because no child should have to endure that. Not when she was bullied by her brother. And I don't know how much he hurt her sexually, but we took her from there and put her into another home that's not any better. It's like we just labeled it Christian. That's all we did for her. And she was supposed to see it as something so much different. And she was like, you're right. I don't understand how this changed because I came here and it was immediate. And I feel like as soon as one of you moves out of the house, it's like, oh, they're out of the house, so they can't know all the craziness that goes on inside the house when you guys come over. Perfect family.
Yeah, that's a lot. I did want to clarify, I used the wrong graphic for this. So this was an audio that Emily had recorded of Destiny for the record so that we could have something to actually move, to actually work to get them out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't actually from the family meeting. That's a later thing. But this was something where, yeah, they knew they were being recorded and it was for the record, and the video was sent to all the siblings for that purpose.
Yeah, and other people have corroborated that what Destiny said was true. Despite the fact that in other meetings, Destiny was labeled as completely lying about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, she talked about that in her
overinflating everything.
Yeah, it was like a 30-minute long video. So I just took a few clips from it to kind of illustrate the gist of it.
But she's exactly, and I talked about this, her saying like when someone gets married and they leave the home, then the narrative changes and they can't know what's going on. And that is exactly what happened with me. Like, Mom and Terry were completely like, they were very careful about what they told us. And when we found out certain things in 2022, which was why we were kind of like, are they safe? Are they safe? Are they safe? Are they safe? It would just continued nagging at us.
Mm-hmm.
When Mom found out that Terry had told me this, she went visibly pale. Because I think they knew, based on how we responded in 2018.
I'm going to show that later. Later, she's going to deny to have even known that was a thing.
Yeah,
but we talked about it with them a year before.
Yes, a year prior. Stuff. Yeah, exactly. And it's just... it's just mind-boggling.
So I guess I shouldn't say mainly, but there was a lot of sibling on sibling abuse.
Okay, originally, this is what we knew.
Right, all we knew was about the sibling on
This
sibling.
is all we knew, besides...
At this point in time.
At this point in time.
Besides the beatings, and that your mom was also physically violent.
Because there has been more stuff come up since Terry's death, which I'm going to cover tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. But we did hear that, yeah, he was still like throwing objects at the kids, told him he hated them. I do have that on audio, but I don't think I forgot to get a clip of that. And told his daughters, or they said all the children, the ones that were at home, that he wished he wasn't their father, which is just unbelievable. So all the siblings who were out of the home had united to go have a family meeting to get the kids out. Well, originally it was like people like Emily and Corey were saying, let's just storm in there and get them out of there. Right?
Yeah.
Because it was so
the siblings were a little mixed on what approach to take.
Right. Well, first we'll get to that in a second. I just want to play that.
Bible that night trying to sleep, and Psalm 41 was what I opened to, and it was, blessed is the man who stands up for the weak and fights for the innocent. And I was like, thank you, Lord. That's what I need. But still, I don't know what to do. And the next morning I was trying to take a nap because I was so tired. And I was crying out to the Lord, and I was like, okay, what do we do when we're anxious?
okay, we thank the Lord. So I'm thanking the Lord for the situation. And I just had to stop. I'm like, this isn't working. So I just start crying out, Lord, how long? How long? I've been praying for 2 years you would do something. How long until you actually do something? How long until you act? And my phone dings. And it was Corey, and she's like, we have to get those kids out now. And I was like, thank you. So then I was like, okay, this isn't okay. We need to do something now.
So yeah, but then they're like, then people started being afraid that they're going to get accused of kidnapping or something. And I'm like, do it. Make her call the police. Make them get the police involved.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad you said that because I completely forgot. Because I was like, why were we afraid? What were they afraid of? But yeah, they were trying to figure out who was going to take kids. And one person, a family friend, I won't say his name, Josh Covert, was going to take Michael. And instead of standing up and doing the freaking right thing after you've stood by the entire family for over 20 years, he yelled at Emily because he didn't want to get in trouble with the law for kidnapping a child, even though this child was in danger. Instead of doing the right thing, he just decided he didn't want to be involved. And they refused to call CPS because they were trying to deal with it and the family.
Which they've been trying to do for decades.
Which we've been trying to do for freaking decades. And at some point you have to, when it doesn't work among the family members, because the family members think they can get it to work. Sometimes it can work. Sometimes it can. Sometimes family members can make it work.
You have to.
Sometimes you have to bring in the law. That we have them for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
We have the law and the authorities to help with this kind of crap for a reason. And when the family system breaks down, you have to get help. You have to seek help. And if, I don't know, whoever's watching this, if you're on the fence about making this decision right now, just ask yourself, have we been successful in the past? And if the answer is no, call the police.
No, yeah, my thing has always been, how certain are you that no one's going to get hurt again? Is it 0%? Because for me, if it's not 0%, that's too high.
It's too high.
But the Long family has been like, it's unlikely. There's a low chance. They're okay with some odds. They're okay with a little bit of odds of someone getting abused.
This is a pattern of behavior that we have detailed in previous episodes, talking about how my family doesn't take safety measures, never have, and I don't think they ever will, because the risk is they're very risky. They will take risky behaviors and take it to the next level. There was no like any kind of safety equipment when we did jobs like this. This isn't a new thing. And thinking that, oh, well, we're going to take them around dangerous people or the stuff among the family, it'll stop eventually, right? You know, kids are kids, whatever, boys will be boys. You know, it happens. Some of us get raped. Deal with it. These are actual responses from our mother and Michael Johnson. Okay, the boys will be boys.
Yeah.
To clarify, that was him.
Because apparently it's normal for teenage boys to get the hots for their sisters.
What is this?
That happens in every family, right? No.
If this does happen in your family,
there's a problem already.
There is a problem.
So yeah, so they were united to remove the at-risk girls and children from the home, but due to the fear of being accused of kidnapping, the Long children decided to freeze it gently so that Cheryl would actually let them take the kids out. And they phrased it as giving mom and dad a break, is how they phrased it. And that would only be temporary. Which I was not happy about that when I found that out.
Nope.
So highlights from the Long family meet. So then there's the meeting. It was about 2 hours again of a recording where everyone knew they were being recorded. I'll just play a few highlights from that. I'm listening to all these people talk for so long. I'm trying to talk on.
You're having a funny way of showing it.
All right, wait a minute. We didn't have the beginning there. Okay.
Why is it not at the beginning?
Because I played it to test it.
Okay.
The past 2 weeks in this house have been hell. Yeah. These girls have pushed me, provoking me constantly. And I told them yesterday, you guys are setting me up for something. I feel it. What you're doing to me is wrong. I need to leave immediately. I've never had to do this before, but I have to kick her out. I have to kick her out, you guys. I love you. You're my daughter. You sure have a funny way of showing it. I said, what do you want me to do? And that's when she said, can I ask you something? I said, what? Why is it okay for people to molest me, but it's not okay for me to like a boy? I'm like, what?
So this is when it, so what day was this?
Thursday.
Okay, so this is when that came out.
Okay. When was this? When she was 7. She said it was when she was 7. You did not deserve.
As a guy, when you're 5 years old, just so y'all know, that's not molesting. That's, hey, what's that? That's not, you cannot consider that molestation.
Because she's 2 years younger
But
than, or older than
that
him,
might
right?
be for his perspective though. But as a girl, I don't know what the thing was, but she could have absolutely received that as.
Well, then he told me.
You know what I mean? Not that he meant it that way, but she
Right, because when
very
you're
well
little like
could have
that,
taken it
I mean, I had crap happen to me when I was molested by Casey when I was 5 years old. That's one of my earliest memories.
But I think she's spinning it because when I was talking to him, because I immediately brought him in here. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we got to talk about this. And so he goes, Mom, I'm kind of confused about that. I said, about what? Well, she likes me doing that. I don't understand.
That's what I was told. It was a mutual thing.
So this.
But
whole-
now she's spinning it in her mind, so she doesn't have to take responsibility for it.
Okay, so this case happened when he was 5 and she was 7.
Yes.
Has there been anything recently?
I heard something about a camera in the bathroom. I have not been able to investigate that. That came out of Destiny's mouth.
And that would have been recent because he had bought a camera within the last year.
I have not.
All right, we gotta pause it right there. So yeah, so in 2020,
I haven't listened to, you've been listening to these, but I forgot.
I know. That's why I've been so agitated lately.
Bad this was, my
Listening to hours of these. So yeah, so we had talked to them. Terry had told us about the video camera in 2022, and Cheryl came and we talked about it in front of them. But she's saying in 2023, oh, I had not heard about that. I have not investigated that. So she's just like a pathological liar. And she's also saying she didn't know about the molestation that happened when she was 7. That's also a lie, because you heard in the earlier clip we played from Destiny and Emily that particular victim had told Cheryl when she was 9, or she told her 9 years ago that when it had happened. And so this is what we're talking about. Stuff just gets brushed under the rug. We're told it didn't happen.
It's minimized. Like, even they don't even call it molestation. They call it touching.
Mm-hmm.
They touched. So this is another thing, is there's a whole lot of whitewashing. I don't even think that we've even talked about this, how the minimization, trivializing and the whitewashing.
It turns out that's part of gaslighting, is actually trivializing. So this is
important.
So this is gaslighting. There's so much gaslighting. We'll go ahead and define this. Would you mind reading that for me?
Yeah, so the gaslighting definition, this term comes from the 1938 stage play Gaslight, in which a husband attempts to drive his wife crazy by dimming the lights, which were powered by gas, in their home, and then he later denies that the light changed when his wife points it out. It is an extremely effective form of emotional abuse that causes a victim to question their own feelings, instincts, and sanity. As a result, the abusive partner has a lot of power, and we know that abuse is about power and control. Indeed, once an abusive partner has broken down the victim's ability to trust their own perceptions, the victim is more likely to stay in the abusive relationship. So gaslighting looks like you might hear statements like, you're crazy, that never happened. Are you sure? You tend to have a bad memory. Or also, well, you are known to be a liar. Or you're also known to be over dramatic.
That's what Destiny just talked about in her audio.
That didn't happen. Just straight up telling you that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's all in your head, or you're making stuff up. I think you're making stuff up. Or how dare you? That's another one. Just straight up, how dare you?
So here's the different gaslighting techniques. One is withholding, which is the abusive partner pretends not understand or refuses to listen. Which we actually kind of heard that from Michael Johnson when they were describing how the beatings happened.
Yes.
He intentionally misunderstood what they were saying.
Yes.
Like, for example, he's like, they're trying to say that we had to pull our pants down completely and be naked from the waist down. He's like, what do you mean hands down?
Yeah, he said hands down. We're like,
and then they said
pants down.
If you just let go of your ankles, because you had to bend over and hold your ankles, and he's like, well, if you turn loose. Well, you're not talking about turning loose. And he's like,
not turning loose, like not running away. No, no. I explained it's the difference between here and here.
And that's what they were saying in the meeting with him. And then the other thing was that Emily explained, like, this was how anytime the word spanked was used in our home, this is how it happened. She says that explicitly. Maybe I should just play that audio. And he says, if the infraction's that bad, no, it's for anything. Any disobedience, being foolish.
Again, blaming the child.
Which don't just take my word for it. Michael Johnson, their pastor, agrees that physical abuse took place.
We all need to be careful as well.
So I'll pause and give clarification. So most of this meeting was discussing the allegations that I made in my video to Terry, and here is saying that that I was too harsh when I described them as beatings, that they were actually spankings, and that's the context here.
Because watching Reagan's video and hearing every time one of the kids got spanked, it was replaced with the word beat, and they were beaten for it. Yes, there was some.
One quick thing. So whenever, I'm just going to interject this, whenever kids were spanked in our home, the rule was you had to hold your ankles.
Okay.
Hands down. Hold your
hands down.
Like hands on your ankles.
Hands on your ankles.
Yes. And if you and it was 10 whacks, but if you let go, they would start over. That hurts. You could get upwards 50 to 70 whacks per thing.
Or PV.
Yes.
Pardon?
With a hand, a belt, or a PV pipe.
Yeah.
Whatever it's about.
So that's what we mean by beating. Like, that's not a spanking anymore. That's you
No,
too
no,
far.
that would not. I would agree that's not a spanking. Okay.
No.
So.
And there were just times we would just have to block out what's going on in the bathroom because the kid's just screaming and you can't do anything about it. So that's what we mean by beating. Whenever that word gets used, that's what we mean.
Did you experience that? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Is that how you remember it? Hold your ankles. If you turn loose, you're gonna get more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think every parent at some point has probably spanked in anger. Instead of taking a step back, we try to send our boys to the room and then we cool off and then we go talk to them about the infraction, why they need the discipline, and then we would apply it in a measured way. Okay. So I can't say that's not appropriate. I mean, if the infraction is that bad, it's time to get some help. It's time to get some help. Okay, it's time to get some help.
So either that was gaslighting or withholding, or maybe he just has bad listening comprehension.
We'll let you decide.
Yeah, and you can hear in that clip, like, again, this is like why no one thought there's any abuse for so long, because in that clip, Isaac goes from I was not abused to within 2 minutes being like, oh, I was abused.
Yeah.
And here's what he says a little bit later on.
But I did want to say, Cora, thanks for saying all that. That helps me. I think I've just been lying to myself and a lot of stuff, so thank you for that.
So,
which is really tragic,
mm-hmm.
but and horrifying to hear that realization dawn on him. But this is what happens. This is how this was able to go on. I'm just I'm a little upset, man, because like I have not listened. I kind of kept myself from listening.
You're
to
kind of experiencing this for the first time with everyone else.
Yeah, honestly, my reactions here are not staged or planned. Like I'm genuinely getting extremely upset here. He's like, "Well, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay."
I was so upset last night.
Yeah, this has been, I've kind of been saving it for this because I didn't want to get prematurely upset.
So
But
just
this
to-
is why this. Okay,
To wrap up gaslighting.
gaslighting,
So
'cause I'm gonna
another
finish my statement
there's
after you say
another form it takes is countering, where the abusive partner questions the victim's memory of events despite the victim remembering them accurately. I know she questioned your memory on stuff.
Oh yeah, she's questioned so many people's memories.
Blocking, diverting, the abusive partner changes the subject and or questions the victim's thoughts. For example, is that another crazy idea you got from? Oh my gosh, I haven't read this one yet. They'll claim that I'm just controlling you, and everyone else who's spoken up, I'm also controlling them, and I'm planting these ideas in people's minds.
It's not funny.
And you're imagining things.
You're imagining things.
Trivializing. We've heard a lot of that. So the abusive
Yes.
partner makes the victim's needs or feelings seem unimportant. I wouldn't say that.
Mackenzie heard that you're too sensitive a lot.
I would say it's more so just like rape. What's the big deal? Trivializing too, or molestation. What's the big deal? Forgetting or denial. The abusive partner pretends to have forgotten, like Cheryl said, and I'll even play her own words later, where she knew stuff was going on for a long time.
Yep. So on here, it is presenting it as I
think this is a married couple.
Married couple. But this same dynamic happens with parents and children. The same freaking one. And thank you. I needed that.
Thank you. Marry or two?
Yes. Thank you so much. Because all of that is the reason how this was able to go on for so long in my family.
Literally.
And no one was able to do a freaking thing about it
Literally
because no one knew. We were all kept in the dark about what our true experiences was. And even after the fact, the gaslighting gets to be so horrible and so just like it's needled in your brain. And if you've ever experienced this level of gaslighting yourself, you may find yourself like, gee, I don't know if my memory's correct, or you'll constantly doubt yourself. You'll be like, oh, surely it wasn't that bad. That's oh my gosh, it's taken me years to get to a point where I'm like, yeah, it was that bad. This is horrific, like on a consistent basis, because when you forget, you go extended periods of time because you're like, you don't want to dwell on the past or how bad it was, but then you
have
back.
to if it's not stopped.
If it's not stopped.
If it's still happening, it can still harm you and harm others. You have a responsibility to.
What's the quote on history? Is there history repeating itself?
I literally at the very end of the presentation I talk about this.
Okay, all right.
I'm like skipping.
Okay, sorry. I
didn't know
what you had.
You can go ahead and say that. You can go ahead and say it too.
We can repeat it many times because I don't know if someone needs to hear it right now, but history will continue repeating itself if no action is taken and if everyone forgets.
Yep. So back to the full family meeting. So again, Cheryl says like she didn't know anything, but just to jog your memory from the early.
And Mom was like, I never knew she was molested. And I said, I told you 9 years ago when it happened. And Mom was like, I didn't know anything about this. And like Mom went straight from yelling at her about that to immediately hugging and I'm so sorry, I love you, I didn't know this happened, and just all kind and everything, like a completely different person.
Of course, then she goes and thinks that the victim was actually spinning it. And we're going to cover that a little bit more about was it really child abuse or was it just innocent experimentation? But let's just get through the rest of this family meeting.
I have not investigated that part. I can't deal with this. I have tried. And this is what I told him. I said, we're doing this over and over and over. You fail.
Okay. Yeah, there it is right there. You do this over and over and over. And it's just a fail. Like, oh,
oops.
I don't know, was
forgot to take the trash out again.
Or I was a little short with you today and snapped at you. Like
just
it's
failed
like
just a tiny bit.
I got trivializing it.
Oh.
Okay, maybe I should just keep us on the screen because we might want.
Yeah, just do it.
And you come and he does come and tell me when he fails though. But it's not, he didn't tell me about the ladder. He told me about the ladder, him putting the ladder up.
So everything's okay because he admits everything and he confesses everything. But then you found out that there's stuff he's not telling you. So what else is he not telling you? Right? So there's a certain level that's like, I'll share this much because then it gets everyone off my case.
Yep.
But what are the really bad things that are not being shared? Because again, we have a timeline that goes from like 5 years old up to 2023, the current time as this being recorded. Yep. There's incidents all throughout, but it's like never dealt with. Because like, oh, that was 2 years ago.
Not in the proper way. They dealt with it in how they thought it was fine. Did you cover that?
I do cover all the ways.
All right.
But yeah, reprimands, scripture, having people in the church talk to them. Went to counseling one time, but didn't like what the counselor said, so we'll cover that later. Oh, dang it. Oops.
And this is what I told him. I said, we're doing this over and over and over. You fail, and you come and talk. He does come and tell me when he fails, though. But it's not, he didn't tell me about the ladder. He told me about the ladder, him putting the ladder up by her bedroom to look in on her bedroom.
Like
this was recent too.
Specifically to do after
just
to watch her get dressed.
To watch her get dressed.
Oh, okay.
So she put the curtains up, but
that's why she put the curtains up.
Yeah.
That's why she put the curtains up. That's right. That was another thing, was no one would help her put the curtains up. So she had to like do it herself or something.
I want to burn something right
But
now.
then there was also the case where he came up and was undressing her in the middle of the night.
When did that happen?
That was recent as well, but I don't know exactly when.
I don't know about this.
So Cheryl did know about that. We'll show that later.
I haven't heard anything about
Apparently
this.
he snuck up the stairs and woke up to him undressing
So
her.
that's been a while. Said that he smacked
For some reason, the subtitle said Destiny, but it wasn't Destiny.
her on the butt one time and it made her uncomfortable and she slapped him in the face. He never did anything.
He was also slapping girls on the butt.
He will not be left alone in the room with ever again.
And no, I do not. I've already told him that. That's why I don't let him take her outside. That's why I've said we'd go in the bedroom to change the diapers.
Yeah.
I don't want him. And
So they know he's enough of a threat that he's not safe around children, but no one else gets to have that information. No one else gets to keep their children safe. And that's the same rules they had in place 25 years ago. When they had a child in their home that was raping and molesting.
That's the thing. They think rules are going to stop
They've not
people
learned.
who
They can break the rules. Don't go upstairs. Okay, well.
Just don't go upstairs.
Well, yeah, we'll cover more of that later, but it's like.
Because when have people who have that strong of a temptation just ever been like, oh, you know what? That rule was put in place, so I'm not going to do that. No, it's that.
So again, they're okay. They're comfortable with a little bit of risk, but they're okay. Like with there's a chance that children could be harmed.
Because a
I'm okay with
child's
that.
safety is not important enough. I'm sorry. It's
Because
they've proven this over and over and over again.
It's too embarrassing for other people to know about this.
Which is why we've been accused of being overprotective because we refuse to take our kids around them.
Yeah, they're overprotective of this.
And they'll make you feel
Thank
bad
you.
about it.
That's a good compliment.
Like,
yeah.
Not my fault. You feel
She
bad
said
about
what she understood was she thought Anna had woken up and was taking her shirt off or undressing her or something like that. But when she woke up, he stopped.
So the two most recent instances was peeking in through her window and the camera.
Trying to peek
Trying
in.
to.
He didn't actually.
Okay.
He didn't.
Oh, okay, so he wasn't successful, so it's okay.
Didn't actually.
I heard he was climbing on the woodshed as well.
I don't
tried
know.
to look in there.
I
I'm not
don't
sure
know about that.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know
and
how you
we
could see anything from
I
the
know,
woodshed.
but
How many times has Cheryl said, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, but we're the ones that don't have all the facts?
Also, just the fact that
Also, at this point in time, hadn't no one really talked to the victim to get their input?
I confirmed with the victim today how much they got talked to about this stuff. Almost zilch.
So that's the other thing. You find out that it happened. Why don't you go to them and like, are you okay? Like, let's take you to get help.
Do you need help?
Let's take you to get, nothing.
No. And we'll weigh in when mom decided it was time for them to get help. We have that included later because it's abhorrent.
still, the fact
that he's trying.
Right, and we know the science is out.
I said, Bub, I'm not helping you. I'm not able to. I am not equipped
Yeah, this is
to help
beyond.
you.
Yeah.
And I said, you are on Joshua Duggar's trail.
If you don't know, Joshua Duggar was arrested for
Child pornography and other things. Just go Google Josh Duggar and you'll find it.
That's a really quick turnaround going from I knew nothing to you're on Joshua Duggar's trail. So which is it? Did you know nothing, or are you seeing a consistent pattern of very disturbing behavior that are saying he's on this path to be this really horrific person? So you obviously are lying about not knowing.
And let me tell you what happened to him. And so I suggested that he talk to Joshua about it. This was Thursday night. I suggested he talk to Joshua, and he's like, Mom, I would die.
That's not Joshua Duggar. It's a Joshua in the church.
I've already mentioned him.
I think you're going to die. But I need
He needs
you
to be made uncomfortable. That's what
exactly.
absolutely.
Because he's not uncomfortable.
All right, so he's on this horrible path. Solution, just have him talk to some random dude in the church.
Who I already...
And it's going to be embarrassing for you.
People coming to me and saying, I failed again, Mom.
Yeah.
Pray for me.
Yeah,
He's not.
It's just, I failed again? And I don't know what are these other failures are that she's talking about, but if it's this is the context she's talking about.
I don't know. Should I say what
I don't know.
The person that we're talking about, how they felt about what Mom was how she helped them?
Sure, as long as we're trying to keep identities.
Okay. The person that Mom is talking about confirmed that they would go to Mom, but she would not help them. The only thing she would do is have him talk to someone or throw scripture in his face and do a Bible study with him. I'm sorry. At this point, your scriptures aren't helping anybody. Okay? They're not helping anybody.
Also, didn't they say that our videos were like some of the best things that
They
happened to
said
them?
when we disrupted the family in 2023, it was the best thing that happened to them because they were actually able to get some help.
Although it was
a
far cry from
what they actually need, but it was at least something.
They weren't going to do anything until we made a big mess of things.
Because we kept hounding, saying, you need to get help. You need to get help. We're not letting this go until everybody gets the help they need. We weren't successful with everybody getting the help they need, but something happened. We were able to get something. I'll take something over nothing.
Comfortable with that is no longer that's how he's making it okay because he does it and then he thinks he's holding himself accountable by coming to Mom and saying, hey, this happened, Mommy.
Yeah. So he's able to
I'm telling you
justify
about it.
Yeah.
So the accountability needs to be outside the house.
When I talked to Allison about it today, she was like, that'd be if he'd done one thing with all the things he's done.
She knows a lot of things, but she's like, what?
She knows
how could this
all
happen?
The things, and I love how she makes herself out to be the victim. And like, I've tried to do everything. And no, you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You failed.
That's the other thing I forgot to mention. Right, this whole meeting was to get the girls out and the kids out of the house. But what we forgot to share was that Cheryl somehow figured that out before they arrived.
Yes.
And so it's like, you can't take my kids. I'm kicking them out because she mentioned she needs to kick the one child out in the beginning. Basically because they weren't doing the chores promptly enough and were talking with a boy. So.
And getting the other sibling to talk to a boy.
Yeah, so that was...
You will get to a point where you're that.
Yeah, and she's like saying she's the one being crying, like, it's been horrible living with these children, who have been abused and need your help and need your love, but you're the victim.
That was the most insane thing about this whole thing was how the parents flipped the script and said, we're being abused.
And that's what lost everyone. Everyone sided with Cheryl when they heard her little sob story.
I'm like, excuse me, you're the ones who created this mess. Don't turn it around and make yourself to be the victim because you are the freaking adults in this situation. Get your act together and go get some help. That's what adults do. They go ask for help.
Bad.
Because this is where rapists start.
Yes,
exactly. Nobody just wakes.
That'd be if he'd done one thing with all the things he's done.
You will get to a point where you're that bad.
Because this is where rapists start.
Yes,
exactly. Nobody just wakes up one day out of no inclination whatsoever and goes out and.
It's literally a path you're on and a path and you're a neuro path.
At first I was like, okay, let's get him into therapy, and then I was like,
therapy's not enough.
but I don't think for therapy.
No, because I feel like with the
guys, I took him to counseling, and I'm like, if this is counseling, we're just not going to do this.
Well,
and I talked to Allison about it, and she's like, no.
This is the end. So yeah, it took her. That's the end of it, I think. Oh no, there's a little bit more.
The counseling that she didn't like. I'm sorry. I may not have appropriate reactions, and people may disagree with how I'm responding to this right now, but I'm so far beyond. I'm so mad right now.
You weren't prepared for me to throw all this in your face.
I was not. I didn't know everything that you were including because I kind of left this episode up to you because I trusted you and this.
Because I'm controlling you.
No, because you are the one who has probably been the most clear-headed person to analyze all of this information. Because I have still questioned certain things myself along the way because that gaslighting fog can sometimes still creep up and be like, what's it really? No fog today. No fog today. The counseling that mom decided wasn't enough was because the counselor told mom they were in the wrong. The counselor told mom they needed to stop reading parenting books and just love their children. Mom decided that this counselor didn't like the fact that she said that they needed to have respect for their children and listen to their children.
Stop demanding respect.
Stop demanding respect from your kids. That's why she didn't like that counselor.
That's another thing to point out. Like, they didn't even get to all this stuff. They just started with our children are so bad and disrespect us and don't do the chores.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they started with, basically. They didn't get into all this stuff.
Nope.
So,
nope.
And they didn't like that counselor. And then, okay, that counselor's bad. We're done. We tried.
We tried counseling, and if this is what's counseling.
Do we try again? Do we try something else? No.
Gee, let me ask why counseling wasn't enough. Oh, because it made you look in the mirror. Okay, got it.
About it, and she's like, you know.
But this big black, he got really upset at Pastor for saying, "Oh, he's gonna send me to juvenile."
I'm gonna come alongside you. I was gonna ask you guys about as well. Him threatening to kill you and everything. It's fine that he's going to the gun range and everything. But when you guys are home, does he have access to firearms? Because if he, okay, that was my like. Whenever I heard that, I was like, Mom's like, oh,
I know it's a
I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Teach the kid that's threatening to kill everyone to shoot point blank.
We're teaching him how to use guns.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Did she not just say that he was gonna off all of them? Now let's take him to the gun range.
But they're the type of people that would teach him to respect firearms. Yeah. They're not just going to turn him loose.
But if he has an anger problem.
So it's so funny that someone who is making death threats is being taken to a gun range and trained on how to use guns.
Because that's gonna get
and right people right that's if people will do that, like they get mad and they say, oh, I'm gonna kill you, right? That they don't mean it, but they took this as a real threat, so they removed all the guns from the property. You don't do that if someone's just making an empty threat. They're just mad at you saying, I'm gonna kill you. So no fog today. That's true. I mean, it's pretty late, so we got some sleep deprivation going on, but yeah,
there's no fog today.
So that was the family meeting. I mean, there's a lot more, but it was mostly just gossip and talking about how bad the girls were. Because normal teenager stuff.
Normal teenager, that's the thing. They weren't even allowed to be normal teenagers. And I remember having arguments, yelling at Stephanie on the phone because she was like, the kids are just so bad. The kids are just so bad. I'm like, excuse me, what have they been through? Can we just reflect on what they've been through? But no, you refuse to acknowledge what's happened because you can't, you don't live in reality. You don't. That's, and this is something I've learned, is that these are coping mechanisms that are used by people who've been abused. Sometimes denying reality, not living in reality is a coping mechanism. So I understand there is that level, which is why it's hard for some people to be like, oh, is it really that bad? Yeah, it is that bad. And sometimes you need someone from the outside to come in and say, hey, this is hell and you're not supposed to be living in hell. Okay, let's help you out.
If it's all you've known, it's
if hell is all you've known, nothing else will seem familiar. A safe relationship will seem scary.
All right. So yeah, this was more proof that Cheryl knew, because she used this whole document going through, and she thought this was a good thing, that it's made her look good and that things aren't bad. She considered this an asset, right?
Yep.
At the time. So here's the columns. We've just covered everyone's names that are listed here. But goes starting at,
because again, these were children. Again, these were children when this was happening.
that's why it's so tough.
It is a
Because
tough situation.
You don't blame the children.
You don't blame the children.
Children are just acting out. They've probably already been abused. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Not all the time, but typically 1 out of 8 children will go on to. Do you have this covered? The statistics on one?
I don't think I covered that in this episode.
Okay. And this is a statistic I came across in the Body Keeps Score is 1 out of 8 children will go on to abuse other people.
Not all of your children that we know, or children, not all of your siblings abuse people.
I wasn't one.
And
the victim I just talked to today was not one.
Basically, everyone was abused, but not everyone went on to abuse other people. You don't have to abuse people.
No, you don't have to.
But we've heard that used as an excuse. Well, I just did it because so-and-so did it to me.
But there is science out there that proves that if a child does act something out on another child, they are acting out what was done to them.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be honest, children are not born into this life knowing how to do this. Okay. They are not.
So I think I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and come back to this.
Okay, this one, children who've been sexually abused by another child.
Yeah, let's talk about. Let's see, where did I put that at? Okay, let's talk a little about sibling. Let's just talk briefly about sibling on sibling abuse, and we'll go back to that so that we have this context that this is a real thing, and that sibling sexual abuse is the most common type of child sexual abuse to occur in families. So that's another big part of this series is to spread awareness for this because no one talks about this.
Because it is, I understand there is so much shame that parents have when realizing, oh no, this is happening in my family. But that's one of the reasons why it continues is because there is a level of shame that's thrust on the children.
And it's different than like normal innocent experimentation, which we're going to also cover later. So yeah, researchers estimate that occurs 3 to 4 times more often than father-to-daughter sexual abuse. And this is from the Child Safety Practice Manual. So it says research has identified that abuse by siblings may be associated with greater frequency, younger children being assessed over longer periods of time and more likely to involve intrusive and penetrative acts than other acts of interfamily abuse. And it says further, children who experience sibling sexual abuse are less likely to disclose the sexual abuse than children who have experienced intra-family sexual abuse by an adult. So that's the other reason why this hasn't been talked about.
And I think, I don't know, if I skip ahead, see if you have any. Okay.
So victims of sibling sexual abuse are more likely than the general population to experience depression and here's all to show that this is really a bad thing and that there are real consequences of this.
It's just as effective. And I don't know if you had this
I do
in here.
I do have that. Regardless of the level of support a child may receive, the evidence increasingly shows that the impact of sibling sexual abuse is just as serious as sexual abuse by other family members, including fathers and stepfathers. Just as serious.
I mean, I don't know why we have to do a study on this to prove that this is the case when any kind of sexual abuse.
Because people in your family don't take it that seriously.
Is horrible. I'm sorry. Any kind of sexual abuse is horrible.
Now, this is another interesting thing because some of the girls in your family have been abusers too. And it says girls with harmful sexual behaviors are an extremely vulnerable group of children. They are likely to have experienced serious, persistent, and multiple types of childhood victimization, including higher rates of sexual abuse and higher rates of victimization at a younger age, higher rates of multiple and concurrent types of abuse, physical and emotional abuse, neglect, and domestic violence, higher levels of family dysfunction. So in other words, if your girls are raping and sexually molesting people, then you've done something horribly wrong. And they've already been super abused in order to go on to do that.
And they need help.
Yeah, we're not saying this to condemn anyone. We just want it to stop.
No.
We want people to get help.
There needs to be a big spotlight put on this because children have been neglected. Children who have been harmed by this have been neglected for far too long because it is a shameful. It feels like a very shameful thing to talk about.
It also makes them more likely to be victims of interpersonal abuse in the future. So That's probably
No, let's read through this. Let's
Okay.
let's take a second to slow this down and read through this.
All right. So girls are much less likely than boys to have repeated incidences of any type of violent behavior, including sexual violence. But that did happen in your family. It was repeated over years by certain members. They're
less likely, but it doesn't say it's not. It's impossible, or it doesn't happen.
There is no known empirically validated tool for assessing the risk, so the science is not conclusive on, as there hasn't been enough research on this. Assessing the risk that a girl will continue sexually abusing others. However, researchers have identified some risk factors and protective factors for girls that may be useful when assessing the risk that a girl will display harmful sexual behaviors again. So, in other words, this list will show whether or not a girl who has molested or raped someone might do it again. And so the list is current experiences of harm or a current lack of safety, a history of sexual abuse, early onset of puberty. I think that happened for a lot of your siblings. The female girls,
it's a mixed bag.
Okay.
There was so much dysfunction.
Okay, a history of the child harming themselves. There was that. A history of being inconsistently parented. A poor attachment to parents. What's that mean? What's a poor attachment?
So a poor attachment to parents means that the child doesn't feel safe with the parents. They don't feel connected. They don't have
ding ding ding.
Like for instance, a healthy attachment looks like the kid going to the parent saying, "Hey, I need something." Like they feel comfortable, and they feel connected. They feel attuned, which means their parent knows what's going on with them emotionally. And if there isn't that, then yeah.
Sorry, so this continues with preoccupation with sex.
Could be others.
A belief that sexual activity is a necessary component of what she does and who she is. Difficulty forming relationships with peers, and a lack of closeness with a female parent figure or role model. I think that's all there is. In summary, sibling on sibling sexual abuse is just as serious and damaging as any other type of child sex abuse. And I'm trying to remember where I had. Yeah, okay, here it is. Also, just a couple quick definitions because these get completely confused in a lot of the audios too. Sexual assault, because this happens. Sexual assault happens when someone, this is from the FBI, I think, oh no, this is from rapecrisis.org. Sexual assault happens when someone either touches another person in a sexual manner without consent or makes another person touch them in a sexual manner without consent. It includes unwanted kissing and the touching of someone's genitals, breasts, or bottom. The addition of this is from the FBI definition of rape is penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus or any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person without the consent of the victim. And so that a lot of both those things went on, and I can't remember what I was going to say after that. But so basically the difference between sexual assault and rape is if there's penetration, and sexual assault is touching. But they just use the term, they either don't even use the word molestation or they just say touched. So I guess that would be sexual assault.
Yeah, but that can mean a whole range of different things.
Right. So let's get to this real quick, and I'll jump back.
Real quick to the sibling on sibling abuse. I cannot remember where this was at, but there is a statistic showing that with sibling on sibling abuse, it is more likely for that to escalate into violent behavior more often with sibling on sibling than any other kind of sexual abusive behavior between in any other dynamic, whether it's parent or adult.
And we know that did escalate to that in some cases.
Yes. Very violent.
This is what the long sink, and maybe, right, you don't know about any of this stuff. I didn't know about any of this stuff until I got to know the Long family.
Sorry.
So not blaming you, but
no, I think this is good. This is good for any parent to have, because if you have been abused, it can be freaky to see healthy sexual exploration.
Right, because you might freak out when you see what's not abuse, and then you scar them that way.
Yeah,
freaking out too much.
Yeah, there's.
So what's the difference between innocent curiosity and exploration and what's actual child-on-child abuse? Are they the same thing? No, there's a big difference.
Big difference.
So this is from FBI.gov. Normal sexual development versus sexually harmful / abusive behaviors. It is important to be able to distinguish between age-appropriate and age-inappropriate sexual behaviors. In general, Normative or expected sexual behaviors in young children include, are usually not overtly sexual, do not include simulating adult-like sexual behaviors. They occur between children that are about the same age and size. They're more exploratory, spontaneous, and playful in nature rather than planned. Do not show a preoccupation with sexual interactions. Occur infrequently, are not hostile, aggressive, or hurtful to the child or others, and are easily diverted when parents/caregivers tell the children to stop and explain the privacy rules. So we're not talking about any of these things.
No.
Because we're talking about these things. In contrast, sexual behaviors of childhood and adolescence are a concern when they are extensive or suggest preoccupation or involve others in ways that are not consensual. That is, sexual behaviors in children are problematic and present a special concern when these happen, when they appear as prominent features in your child's or youth's life. We just showed you that huge timeline where it extended for like a decade.
Yep. It's too long.
Yeah. There are other greater differences in the children's ages and size or developmental ability.
Now, I do want to point out, this isn't always the case.
Right. These are just some
This
signs.
is a guideline.
It's not exhaustive.
It's not exhaustive, but there are times when they are close in age, and sometimes the victim will feel like, oh, well, I guess I was in the wrong because I was either younger or they weren't, because like I think the legal definition has to be 4 years and above
For it to be rape.
for it to be considered rape or serious.
This is just problematic sexual behavior.
Right. I just want to point out that even if there's like a 1 or 2 year age gap, or if they're twins, I don't care. If there's serious stuff going on, pay attention.
Also, when there's manipulation, bribery, coercion, threat, or force are employed when sexual play or behaviors aren't welcomed by the other children involved in the play, when the behaviors are beyond the expected knowledge for the children's youth or age. Yes, I mean all these happen in your family.
All of these.
When the behaviors interfere with the other age-appropriate activities. So
yeah,
that's showing the big difference there.
There's such a big difference. And yeah, that was kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about this, because it is underreported. It isn't discussed. It isn't like, I don't know. Some parents are like, oh my gosh, this was, my kids are touching each other and like, this is horrible. Sometimes it's normal. Sometimes, and you could be responding. I know I struggled with this in the beginning. You had to tell me to chill out. Because I was like, oh my gosh, oh no, what's happening? It's happening all over here. He's like, nope, let's look this up. So we, because of my history, I had to go in and study what looked normal. And
I think they were just like taking a bath together.
They were, yeah. They were just, it was complete innocence. And that's the thing. When you haven't experienced innocence yourself, it is a very foreign thing to observe and be a part of. It's a beautiful thing, but oftentimes it can seem rather foreign and
sends you back to what happened to you.
Yes, it will send you back to what happened to you. Children are excellent triggers.
So
all right, so what were you going to go back to?
So then just going through this, because this handwriting is a little difficult to read. So this is what Cheryl has written down for this, all the different events that happened with this one child. So siblings A and B are inappropriately touching. She said it was mutual consent, but we talked to
the one victim and they said no.
It was not mutual consent.
F no.
And they remembered it as being hurtful.
Yes.
As what you heard in the audio.
And not wanting it.
But Cheryl says she's just spinning it and doesn't want to take responsibility.
Which is a pretty horrific thing to say about
She also
your kid.
writes here that they referred to it both as Chang. So that goes back to that list of harmful behaviors. It's an ongoing thing. It's planned.
It's planned.
They have a name for it.
This is the same thing that happened with me and the person who abused me.
Yeah, you had
when
a
I
name
was
for
a
it.
kid, we had a specific name. We had hand motion. We had everything. So that we could be like, hey, wanna... Be like, okay, yeah.
I think it was outside and hidden from others, like by the creek or something.
Yeah, that was one example.
And I think she wrote that they never got caught, but sibling B, who was the abuser, although Cheryl thinks it was mutual, doesn't remember specific memories except for one instance at the creek or near the rock fort. So that was those ages. Oh, okay. I put it also here. I didn't skip all that far ahead. So yeah. So yeah, this is what you heard in the audio because I was messaging with Cheryl about this. And this was in the context of her wanting me to take down the video I made for Terry about getting ahead of herself. So that's when she asked, why is it okay for sibling B? So sibling A asked, why is it okay for sibling B to molest me, but it's not okay for me to like a boy? I was thrown for a loop. No, you weren't, because you already knew all this. I talked with her about it and then came down and got sibling B out of bed. He was confused. I told him what she'd said because he told me she had gone along with all of it. Yeah, because when you're a child and you don't know what's going on, you can go along with it, but it's not consent. Children can't consent.
Children's perceptions can be misconstrued, especially. And
we're not trying to come down on the other sibling who perpetrated it, but they knew what they were doing. They knew, because probably they were abused. They were simulating again adult interactions. So they both just need to get help, and they need to be separated from each other. And not just be like, oh, they almost act like they're like adults that messed up and were impure together and like had relations before marriage is kind of how they're treating it.
Yeah. They do treat it that way. But also part of the reason why there's this confusion as to, well, I thought they wanted it, blah, 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 is we were never taught any boundaries, personal boundaries for our physical bodies. No. We were never taught how to say no. You didn't get to say no.
And then sibling B says like they don't remember much, but sibling A also said that she remembered sibling B bragging about all the things he had done to her.
Yep.
So that doesn't sound like someone that's very remorseful. Don't remember what audio clip I was going to play there, but I probably already played it from the meeting. Then we have this same sibling molested so they were 9 years old and molested a 3-year-old. They just called it inappropriate touching in their bedroom. So who knows what that was. Then the whole video camera thing, set it up in the bathroom for 3 days to spy on his siblings. Another sibling found the camera and took it to an older sibling who deleted everything and told mom. The camcorder so this is the punishment. The camcorder was taken away permanently, and the sibling B that did that was reprimanded. Does that seem like that's sufficient?
Talking to, which is what they mean by reprimanded? Yeah, no.
Soon thereafter, B confessed to mom about molesting the 3-year-old when they were 9. Mom tells B not to tell the parents of the victim. B is no longer allowed to be alone with anyone of the opposite gender. B struggles with lustful thoughts and goes to mom with them. So it's all good. And then the way it worked, that there's a bedroom that was adjacent to the bathroom, and B would attempt to peep over the door while siblings were in there and saw them twice. So it's only twice. So it's not that bad. It's only twice.
It's just twice.
And it's the victim's fault because they were already told not to take a shower or use that bathroom when the perpetrators were in that bedroom. They were supposed to use mom and dad's bathroom. And they did not always comply. Those bad victims, they were reminded often. And then he also set the ladder against the woodshed to attempt to see the siblings undress from swim clothes. So this doesn't sound like they're just like nothing happens for a couple of years and boom, this happens out of the blue. There's probably stuff in between they don't know.
But because mom has the information.
Even Pastor Johnson said there's probably more they don't know. And we already heard about the death threats.
Yep.
So yeah, what actions were taken at that point in time? Reprimands, video camera taken away, forced to talk to another men at the church. Girls were told not to use the bathroom by the boys' bedroom.
I didn't understand the change of diapers.
They were also told not to wear their skimpy night clothes. So that's on them too. Shouldn't have been tempting their brother.
Yeah, we've covered this before, but just to
because
reiterate.
the laws love.
Never failed to make that. There was a
So yeah, they
in
said,
the cult we grew up, the girls were responsible for helping the boys including your brothers and your dad, do not have lustful thoughts. So
yeah, I remember you guys talking about that, but I assumed you meant like people outside your family. I didn't know you had to worry about the males in your household.
yeah, you were responsible. And I forgot to snag these, but I have messages from Terry where he talks about how if they could just get the girls to dress appropriately. The girls, it's all the girls' fault. The girls just need to dress appropriately. And I'm like, really? You're still harping on the clothing?
And if you're raised like that, that probably gives you license. Like, I can do what I want to them. They're not dressed the right way.
Well, yeah, especially when you are raised in a cult where girls are seen as second-class citizens.
That too. They don't have as much value as me.
No, the girls do not have value, and they can be taken advantage of. And there was this attitude about the parents that these are our kids and their bodies are ours, so we can do whatever we want.
So you also heard in that family meeting clip, she said, we only change diapers in the bedroom. So that seems to imply that he can still change the diapers of children.
I was confused by that one. Did they just mean that they removed the children from his eyesight?
I don't know. That's why I have a question mark there. But
yeah,
he's not alone with children either. But no one.
And again, this isn't so much to put on the person in question.
This is the one we have the most evidence on.
This is just to exemplify the actions that the adults took.
Mm-hmm.
And what they thought was enough, and how they, because of their minimization of it, they didn't see it as that bad. And it's like, okay, you have to look at the fruit of what's happening with your kids and suck it up and go get professional help.
So I think this was much later. But eventually sent to an ATI camp
a year later,
which was the cult. So it was a camp that's part of the cult. And it's the same kind of place that Josh Duggar was sent to, and that didn't work for him either.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the reviews that we've read about the place, it might have even been an abusive environment as well.
Yep.
So children who have been sexually abused by another child or their sibling can find speaking out about their abuse incredibly difficult for many reasons. They may not realize they're experiencing abuse because they live in an overtly sexualized environment with greater exposure to pornography, highly sexualized language, and sexualized behavior from adults. And there was a lot of
and you might find,
which is crazy because you guys are supposed to be super pure. And
that's exactly what I was about to say, is that we were told to be pure, but we were also groomed.
Mm-hmm.
We were also groomed. Everything was sexualized. Like even taking the paper off of the crayons. Mom referred to it as, oh no, you left the crayons naked. You took their clothes off. Like, what the heck?
And they took you around people that they knew were rapists and child abusers because they were extended family members.
They were extended family,
so family's important.
Or they have a great testimony, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say, we're in a group. What's the likelihood that something will happen?
And you were exposed to a lot of, the word harlot was used a lot in your home.
Yeah, different variations of prostitute, the Proverbs 7 woman, harlot.
You watched
whore,
movies
slut.
About date rape. Like there's so much. There was just so much sexualization, which is like unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and that's why it's so just the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance there for we're pure, but you're not allowed to think about sex. Okay, but I'm allowed to be exposed to harmful sex, but not good sex.
So we've also joked a lot about this just because that's a hilarious clip. But it actually makes complete sense why so much of this happened, and we're not coming down on the children.
Yeah.
Because as it says here, children who have had very few, and we're also trying to lighten the mood because this is such a serious topic. Children who have had very few positive interactions with their parents may rely on their sibling or a child who displays harmful sexual behaviors for comfort and may in some ways welcome the interaction or attention. So that's what the parents were saying. And this may cause confusion and prevent disclosure. Children are likely to have been subjected to silencing strategies, which prevent them from being able to disclose abuse. For example, a child abusing another child may silence them by threatening social isolation or saying that they will be in trouble if the adult finds out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, sometimes they just do it because there's a lack of affection from the children and the parents. So yeah, they seek
They were
comfort.
partially driven to that by the abusive parents. So around that time, another sibling, different one, came out and admitted to at least sexual assault, as we read the definition earlier. So they said halfway through the age of 6, and they were older, 16. So
which is the legal age of consent in the state of Indiana. I'm just going to put that out there.
So there was another incident that happened. So there's other incidents we won't get into, but I was making dinner and my younger sister was in the room next to the kitchen and was on the computer. I poked her and she poked me back. We did this for a minute until I poked her in the chest inappropriately. She did an uncomfortable giggle and poked me back. This went on for a minute and then I went back to making dinner. I felt guilty, but ignored it. Stuff like this went on for about 1 to 2 months, and the incidents happened about once or twice a week. I'm guessing he is whitewashing that a bit. Based on what the victim told us. Each time the incidents got worse till one night I was watching a movie on the couch. Or do you want to read the rest of this, guys? I might need to get my off a break. It was the second paragraph.
She was next to me on the same couch, and her younger brother was on the other couch, but facing away from us. Mom was at her grandpa's house, and her dad was working night shift for XPO Logistics at the time, so neither one was home. I sneaked my hand up her shorts and touched her vagina. She didn't do anything, and so I touched it for about a minute before she said, "That hurts." I pulled my hand away, feeling guilty and shame. There might have been another instant this happened, but I do not recollect it. The poking and molestation stopped shortly after that.
And we know that's a lie.
We do know that's a lie.
And you might wonder, like, why didn't she push back more or try to stop it? Well, when you're groomed and you've been molested and abused for so much, you kind of just freeze up and you just take it.
The body, when it's happened so much and you are not in a position to push back, you've never been taught to do that. Your body learns
I say you, if you're a decent human being, you wouldn't even think about that, but some people do for some reason.
There's a natural freeze response that kind of just, once your body has done it a couple of times, it's like, oh, this is happening. Okay, we've done this before. We know what to do. We're going to freeze. We'll just ice you out, disassociate, go someplace else so we can get through this and keep surviving.
So according to the other person that he's talking about in this letter, he wrote this up in a Google document and sent this to everyone. Not everyone. He sent it to a lot of people in the family, but not the person that he was talking about.
Not the victim.
So according to that victim, this went on for years, not months. And he went on until he was at least like 18. And so at least 3 years. And one of the first times they were coming out of the creek. So again, that creek again. And he was trying to get her on his motorbike. He said something along the lines of, "Let me touch you." He said, "You know it's not wrong. Show me in the Bible where it's wrong." Which is crazy because I can show you in the Bible where it's wrong. It's a lot of places. Eventually, on the way back from church, he did say, "Sorry for molesting you." And that was it.
That was the beginning of this year.
That was the beginning of this year. I didn't realize that was a recent.
Yeah.
So the same perpetrator also made a disgusting sexual comments about our daughter, who was 3 at the time, and I don't even want to get into that. So this tracks. So then he says he went on a retreat, and then everything was better. And he confessed everything to my mom about him molesting this person when he was 19. And this is the same person that Cheryl says knew nothing about. Didn't know anything was happening. But here he admits to it. Back when he was 19.
Yep.
So Cheryl has known a lot and nothing happened. Didn't do anything about it.
Did you include the response for the victim?
No.
So some might be asking, like, since mom knew, what was the response that mom had for...
Like, how did she help the victim?
How did she help the victim? Not at all.
Never talked to her about it.
Never talked to her about it. Never thought to ask her, hey, you need therapy. The only time that mom mentioned therapy...
At a minimum.
At a minimum. Go get therapy. The only time she did was when the victim yelled at mom, and mom said, "You're not mad at me. You're mad at your biological parents, and you're taking it out on me. You hate me. You need help." That was the only, you need to go get therapy.
Because
that was the only
because you hate
time.
me.
Because you hate me.
I'm going to draw the
obviously.
line at that.
Obviously, you've got issues because you hate me. How could you hate me? Why would you possibly hate me? You're not actually mad at me. Not for, hey, you've been abused. You've been severely traumatized. And it's not because mom didn't know. She freaking knew.
And it's not just children, too. At least 4 of the Long children have sexually molested and even raped other siblings into their teen years. And some of their victims were toddlers or even infants, which is really hard to wrap your mind around. But
it's hard to wrap your mind
they've
around. And
admitted to it.
I feel horrible for outing. I'm not even outing everybody. I'm just look. There's a list for a reason. There's a sex offender list for a reason. So parents and other people can make decisions, sound decisions about whether or not they feel their child is safe. If you don't have the information,
right, your siblings have babysat for a lot of families.
My siblings have babysat for so many families over the years. So if a Long child has babysat your kid, please just do the uncomfortable thing. Be uncomfortable for a few minutes and go ask your kid if they remember anything, how they felt about any of us babysitting them.
Find out if they had any of the symptoms.
If they had any symptoms, I'm going to be going into a list of how to know a child has been sexually abused at all the different ages tomorrow. And we have had to have this conversation with our kids. Okay. It's uncomfortable. You're going to feel sick to your stomach. You're going to hate every single minute of it. But these are the kinds of conversations that parents need to have with their children. Because if you don't, who else will? Their spouses when they get married, as was in your case, and a lot of my siblings' case. Like, you deserve to have this information. I'm not sitting on this any longer, and I'm sorry if this offends you. I don't care. Children are valued. Children need to be valued. Children's safety and protection, their innocence needs to be protected. And if parents are not willing to step in and be uncomfortable for their kids, that's a problem. Okay? Ask yourself why. Why does this make me uncomfortable? Maybe you've got some unresolved stuff and you need help. If that's the case, that's okay. That's okay. This has all made me wildly uncomfortable. Having kids has made me so uncomfortable. That's actually one of the signs. If children terrify you, you might have been sexually abused. like seriously, I have been uncomfortable. Like even being affectionate with my kids because I'm like,
I haven't had any.
You have not had that. You've not had that. I've been like, oh my gosh, is this? Oh my god.
No,
you're
being ridiculous. I'm being ridiculous.
I know. I'm like, am I doing something? Like, what is? I'm like, I don't know. So if you have that fear, like just have some self-awareness. Just ask yourself, hey, why am I having a problem here? And then let's just get to the roots of stuff, because glossing over this stuff isn't helping anybody and it's making society worse. It's not helping anybody to not talk about it. Silence and shame cannot work anymore. They don't work. They make the problem so much worse for everyone. Everyone.
So the context of all this, again, we had this great relationship with Terry, been in our home so much, and he said he was going to change, but we learned out he's saying he hates his children, wishes he wasn't their father, throwing stuff at them. We heard that family meeting, which is 2 hours long. We heard the interview that Emily did with Destiny and all the horrible stuff going on, and we're like, this has to stop.
We had already told him that his kids kind of wanted him dead.
I know, not to make him feel bad, but to make him wake up and start loving them.
Realizing, hey, if your kids want you dead, you might need to make a few changes. Just a few.
So I made a really harsh video to him, like telling him this, because apparently his pastor never told him this after how many years? No one in the church is going to tell, no men in his life are going to tell him this.
And this is, again, another problem. Men We need the men back. Okay. I know toxic masculinity ruined it all for every single one of us. Okay. It's not just affected, the women, blah, blah, blah. It's affected the kids. Okay. Toxic masculinity. Okay. I've lived under toxic masculinity, and I can tell you it's not what mainstream wants to paint it as. Toxic masculinity is, I'm the man, I assert dominance, I have power over you, you are less than, you don't have any value, you're a woman, you don't have say. Like, I lived in that environment, okay? So I know what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity.
We even read how Cheryl described it herself.
That's not just what toxic masculinity is. Toxic masculinity also goes the other direction, where the men are so weak and so passive and don't have a backbone and will not stand up for anyone.
Can you send us a private message?
Send us a private message, and send us a private message on that one. Toxic masculinity goes the other direction, as I was saying.
We're replying to a comment.
We're replying to a comment. It's when the men are too weak. The men don't have the courage. I already detailed how Josh Covert was yelling at Emily, who was going through horrific times. Okay, she was under a lot of stress when she was trying to get the kids help.
Not only that, but how old were you when you went to him and said, I don't feel like my parents love me, and he shut you down?
Him and his father both shut me down and said, don't ever say that again. Your parents love you.
So that was a red flag. That was like a cry for help. And there's
if a child tells you, okay, listen, if a child tells you, I feel like my parents don't love me, don't shut the child down. Don't immediately assume that it's just the child being a brat. Sometimes children are trying to cry out for help. Okay, I can't tell you how many times we thought about going to people and asking for help. But we knew time and time again that all the adults thought we were just brats and rebellious. Sometimes the parents are the ones causing problems. It's not always the children. It is not. Okay, sometimes there are just seriously good children just trying to be good. We just wanted to please our parents, but we never could.
That's what our song Innocence Lost is about.
We could never do it. And it was exhausting. And no one would help us because we have it in our heads that parents are always right. Children are never right. Children are always wrong. Children never have anything good to say. We don't value children. And because we don't value children, we don't value innocence. We don't value that maybe children have a better insight on things than adults do. I can tell you, just listening to my children and their innocence and their brilliant minds, children are geniuses. All children are geniuses.
All children are born geniuses. They're just ruined by
beaten
adults.
out of them. It's ruined. Yeah, it's snuffed out of them. And if we don't start listening to children again, we're going to lose our way. Also, if the men don't come back and start standing up and helping us out, we're going to lose everything. So,
and it wasn't just you. Other families that went to Landmark Baptist Church, and
I'm not going to name names.
No, but
people asked me to keep them.
No, we're not going to name names. But they reached out to you and told you, like, we went to him and told him our father was abusing us.
We went to Michael Johnson specifically.
Yeah, and he told us to go back. I don't know what to tell you.
You're under your father's authority. I'm sorry, but when the father's authority, as we demonstrated in Mom's message, was a hammer, authority is not meant to be a hammer. Not in the home.
A hammer is never an appropriate tool for a child to be used on a child.
That's a good line, man. It's a really good line. Anyway.
So then I made a video to Terry in good faith. Honestly, I was hoping he would actually do something. And
we were hoping, yeah.
And I have to show, it was like an hour-long video, so I'm just going to show like 5 minutes.
We didn't make it public because we weren't trying to shame him. We put it was on YouTube.
It was like we were trying to follow what the Bible talks about in Matthew 18.
Yes.
Where if you have an offense against someone, or if they're in, I guess it's more so if you have a personal offense. We don't really have a personal offense.
This isn't a personal offense. These are crimes committed against your kids.
We had him in our house and had hour-long conversations. We did it there. And so then I sent a video to him, and it's unlisted, not public, so no one else can see it. But then the Longs started sharing it. Your mom and Terry.
I shared it with a few siblings.
Yeah, you shared it with a few
siblings. And one friend.
Which I'll cover that in a second. But anyway, I'm just going to play like 5 minutes of it, just because this is such an important video, because so much references this later on.
Yeah.
And so much follows after this. So I'll just show it. It's like 5 minutes of the video. So it starts out with me kind of You won't see this here, but like the whole hour-long video kind of started out with me telling Terry what a father is supposed to be and how he's not living up to that. And then I went through and listed everything I knew at the time of who did what to whom and what exactly it was. I even read one of your diary entries about what someone did to you. And yes, it was very graphic because rape is graphic. And they didn't seem to be getting the idea that this is bad. So that's why I had to actually read what happened, because they didn't seem to be taking it seriously. And then,
because again, it goes back to the gaslighting, the sanitization, the trivializing, the whitewashing. It's not that bad. You're just making a big deal of it. That's been so like needled into their brain that they can't even tell when something is that bad.
Right. And then I kind of wrapped up with just like a plea for him to like think about what you want your legacy to be, because you have ALS and you're going to be dead soon. So anyway, this is just a few clips from the whole thing. Let's quickly recap what your children have gone through under your watch. Doesn't sound like you're taking it seriously, so I have to paint the whole picture. So bringing us up to the current day, your children are literally dying physically and spiritually, and instead of doing what a father should do, rushing into help at no consideration for himself or his own well-being, you are wanting to run away from them. We asked you what rules you had put in place to protect the girls from. You said you put rules in place. You said the girls are not allowed to use the bathroom next. Also, he's not allowed upstairs. Now, maybe things have changed. My understanding is you only have one bathroom. So you're saying the girls are not allowed. So he's still doing things. Maybe things have changed. My understanding is you only. His response is not lately that I know of. So even he's saying there's a chance stuff's still going on, and I don't know. But we're the ones again that don't have all the facts. And it doesn't seem like it's that urgent of an issue for him. Have one bathroom. So you're saying the girls are not allowed to use the bathroom next to his room or when he's nearby. So the girls are being punished. He's abusing them and they're being punished. Also, he's not allowed upstairs. You had rules when he was staying in your house and he broke the rules. You don't keep the abuser around the abused. You set rules and he ended up abusing at least 3 of your children. You haven't learned. You said that the upstairs consumes the girls. I know that's been a complaint you've had for years, but have you stopped to think about why? That's a common thing with all this. I don't hear anyone asking why. Why is he doing this? Why do the girls want to be upstairs? Why are they consumed with the upstairs? You say it's because mom gives them chores. Have you stopped to think about maybe it's because they feel unloved and unwanted? Have you stopped to think that maybe they feel terrified to come downstairs because they'll be attacked physically or sexually, or they'll be verbally abused with lies, criticism, screaming, or insults? I saw a video of Cheryl screaming in Sabrina's face. I've heard that she's slapped Sabrina, grabbed her, thrown her.
After everything that I went through with her, and you watched me go through it. You watched me!
If I was a child in that house and I couldn't escape, I would hide upstairs all the time too. You said we are doing everything we know to do, especially with the past. We have every crack and cranny covered. You do not. So you've known about a long time and you've kept him in your home, kept him in a place where a decades long or how they're dressing. But the truth is your children still need you. Do you want your legacy to be Terry Long, the father who failed to love and protect his children, the father who oversaw a decades-long history of sexual abuse and assault and rape among his own children, the father who beat his children when he encountered these things, who never learned, who continued to rant and rave about standards not being upheld or children not cleaning the yard? Is that what you want your legacy to be? Or do you want to change things? Do you want to actually start loving your children and leave them with an image of a father who was loving and caring and courageous, who was proud of his children, who built them up instead of tearing them down, who focused more on what was good for them rather than what was good for himself, who never sought his own, who didn't care how much he was disrespected because all he could focus on was the good and well-being of his children? That can still be your legacy, but time is running out. You need to hurry. You need to change. You need to take action. The choice is yours. All right, so that's some of the video. But for time's sake, we're going to try and move along. All right, so that's that video. And then rather than listening to the video, Terry, Cheryl, and Pastor Johnson could only focus on who might have seen it, and even thought I had shared it with my family, which I hadn't. So I wouldn't have had a problem with that because I don't think there's anything wrong with what I said in my video. But they were the ones sharing the video. And Haley, you just shared it with a couple of your sisters because you thought it would be validating for them.
I shared it with one mentor who were asking, hey,
I think that was later. Wasn't it later?
I was a little bit later, but I just asked, hey, were we wong on that? I just wanted, for the record, yes. Shared it with one other person.
So I should put us on the screen.
Just for transparency's sake.
So yeah, after learning of all the abuse still going on, the married Long children who were out of the home arranged for a meeting with Pastor Michael Johnson to inform him of the abuse and to seek help with the situation. So that's where we've been getting a lot of our clips from for other episodes in here.
Mm-hmm.
So
you play?
I think we already. This slide. I think we already covered that, right? So everyone in this, everyone knew they're being recorded. I think we already played. Yeah, we already played the clip where everyone said they knew they're being recorded.
Yep. Yeah, we've already talked about that.
So everyone was guarded with their speech and only said what they actually meant. So where did my media go? Okay, so let's see. So the meeting with Pastor Johnson happened, and so yeah, it's supposed to be for helping the kids, getting them help, but all Pastor Johnson could focus on in the video was all that stuff. And he said here's something he said.
So I watched it, and this was Friday afternoon, and I got it. And it was devastating, okay? In fact, if even, half of what the allegations are true, then I would almost say these parents don't even need to have children, okay?
All right, so he came in here so confident that it was all lies.
Mm-hmm.
And he says if even half it's true, his parents don't deserve to have any children. I think so far we've shown how it's all true. So let's see what else happened. So the one thing I did get wrong though was I didn't know that they'd finished a second bathroom, because for a long time your family only had one bathroom.
Yeah.
Like that makes it better.
But just little things. So now somebody picks that up and says, "Oh, good, not allowed to use the bathroom. What are they going to do? Go out to the outhouse?" I mean, that's not just little things in there like that, and some other things. Yeah. But there were some graphic things. I don't want any more to go there. So I just think that.
Oh yeah, he was offended at how graphic it was. But also, yeah, they also had an outhouse. But that they feel like that's like they think that's like a big trump card for them. That blows me out of the water. Oh, the girls could have just used the other bathroom. They didn't have to use that bathroom where they could potentially be spied on or victimized.
If they would just listen to us and obey the rules, they'd be
Don't
fine.
you realize that's just as bad or worse? You're saying that there's a whole bathroom in their own house, which is a very small house, that they can't use because you might be victimized. You might get molested. You might get spied on.
I'm sorry. Can we just?
Why are they they're literally being punished.
Can I just give people help?
They're being punished. And they know it's a risk. They know they're at risk and they're not doing anything. That's proof that they know their danger is real.
Also, just the fact that, again, I think we might have covered this before. I think we've covered this before, but the fact that he was offended by how graphic it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look. There has been so much language where Michael Johnson took on the Long family, and Terry even wrote about it in his little memoir that he published. I don't have it with me, but he said that, he didn't know what he was getting into, but he took on, the project, grabbed the bull by the horns, and has been there for us everywhere. Okay. If you have, then why is it so hard to understand that if graphic things are going on, you shouldn't look away? You don't look away when graphic things are happening
to children. They have to endure it. They have to experience it.
Sorry my life was so graphic that it grossed you out and made you feel bad.
It was her diary entry I read.
It was my diary, but we didn't help. Okay? So look, this is another reason why this stuff continues on, is because people don't want to handle it. Children don't want to handle it. I didn't want to have to live through that. I didn't ask for that. None of us asked for that. But because people are so uncomfortable, which I get it, Yeah, it's dark. It's why we use humor to kind of deflect because, yeah, it's been dark. This has been our life. This has been my entire life. Okay? Try living it. You don't want to hear about it? I'm sorry. You shouldn't be a pastor. If you don't want to deal with this kind of stuff, because this is the stuff that goes on with the people you're trying to help. Okay? Look, if you're a Christian and you want to go help people, you're going to end up dealing with dirt. Okay? You have to be ready to deal with the graphic side of life, because if you're not ready to deal with the graphic side of life, you're in the wrong business, you're in the wrong line of work, you're in the wrong religion. Okay? Because Jesus came to save us from our graphic, horrible, sin-infested life. And if you can't help facilitate that, you cannot be called a Christian, because you don't even know why Jesus came to save us for. You don't know.
Preach.
Came out of nowhere.
So
Sorry.
he also the only other thing he could mention was, I was saying that the Longs, Cheryl and Terry, knew about much, maybe not all, but much of what was going on. Because if I knew about it, how could they not know about it? Anyway, so
they continued playing dumb.
And we also saw, if you've watched this whole thing, you've seen all the evidence that they've known stuff.
They've known stuff.
And
they continue to
they've
say,
been told stuff. And yeah. So anyway, the only other thing he said that I got wrong in my video that he listed was that, no, they have taken action. And he cites the one time 25 years ago that, but
CPS was called.
Yeah. So this is, they've had CPS called them twice at least. But that also is dubious, as we'll find out later. And but this is what he was also saying.
I know he's trying to peek over the door, but I'm talking about physically.
Not fit. I mean,
That's what I'm
other
talking
than
about.
climbing upstairs, I'm not sure when. Timing-wise.
You talking about the undressing incident?
Yes, that he undressed her.
Mom,
Yeah.
age 7, Michael sneaks upstairs undressing in her sleep in the early morning hours. He remembers being caught once and being reprimanded. He believes this was the last time. They wrote down a timeline.
It's a timeline. It probably happened on and off for a couple of years. 7, he's going upstairs.
So even he said it probably happened going on for years. But remember, I already said if even half of it is true, these people don't even deserve to have children.
I'm not going to downplay anything. But
Right.
children,
But you are.
Children, if they're playing with each other, it's in a sexual way. Okay, so who's molesting who? I don't know. Yeah. All right. So
All right. That is referring to that first incident that we talked about. It's on the timeline. And we talked to the victim, and they said, no, they remember being molested. They remember being abused. But Michael Johnson doesn't think it's a big deal.
Again, in his own words,
They're
I'm
past-
not to downplay anything.
But you are downplaying it.
But who's molesting?
And we're not the only ones who said that. We'll show some screenshots later where other Long children thought he was downplaying it.
Said the exact same thing the other
That's
day.
what yeah, because when I was first told about
And we also shared all the definitions from the FBI and other places that this is a real thing.
abuse a couple of years ago.
he was 9 years old.
Inappropriate
This is
touching
when-
in his bedroom.
At age 11, he confesses it to his mom.
So he confessed it to his mom, but she didn't. No, there's no one's name. But she didn't tell the parents of the 3-year-old child that he molested until 3 years after learning of it. So this is
I think it was actually 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
Not
So-
that that's any better, but
Well,
I just want to.
I thought I heard them say 3 years. I don't remember.
Okay. I thought it was 2.
At age 11.
I remember it being 2, but I could very well have.
Oh, no. Okay. It was. I guess I was counting 9, 10, 11. So I just did math bad. So yeah, he did it at 9, but then told her at age 11. So it was 2 years.
He confesses it to his mom. Okay, no knowledge of it till then. So she says if she made the worst decision of her parenting, she didn't tell it, and it's turned out to be true. Okay, so that happened. So that in the
That's one thing, at least, that's true.
report was the last, at least that is presently confessed. Okay,
Presently confessed. So even he's acknowledging that there could be more.
Yeah.
Well, he was caught with a camcorder.
Yeah,
It says age 11. Mom bought him a video camera for his
We're
birthday.
kind of going through the stuff we already
The young
talked
man
about earlier.
now,
yeah.
okay, so that was that, and then obviously he was still being tempted. He is a young man with now raging hormones, and so he's going to be tempted. And so that bedroom to the front bedroom, the new bathroom had been
Tempted by his sisters.
So your mom
They think that's a normal thing. PJ thinks that's a normal thing.
I'm sorry. Is this Alabama?
That's being mean to Alabama, I think. I don't even like Alabama.
Not going to the bathroom because he's in the bedroom.
So what?
Which should never have been.
It's a low blow even for Alabama.
He shouldn't be in that bedroom.
I know.
He's in the bathroom. So the door's ajar, however, he's peeking.
So he knows all this is true.
And then there was one other thing. But so I'm not going to be surprised if there's more comes out. Okay. So he needs help.
Okay, if you're not.
So by his own words, these people shouldn't even have children, but he's never done anything to step in
And say that, and get them to have their children removed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he agreed to them having the girls removed for a time.
Yeah, but that was because the family stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
we didn't let it go.
We're the ones that made that happen. Us and I don't know if we want to say the other person, but one other person really made that happen because we would not let it go because we kept hearing because we heard another sibling was working with people in the church like 2 years earlier
in 2021
to get the children removed, and we're like, that seems out of character for that sibling. That seems really extreme for them. They're not the type of person to do that. So if they're doing that, there must be something seriously wrong going on. And then we heard all the stuff Terry was telling us. So I remember you're just on a call with this other sibling, and I'm like, find out if the girls are okay. Just talk to the girls.
Yeah, because at that time I wasn't in contact with anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Not one to that's very good. Not one to downplay things.
I've done a lot more yelling than I anticipated.
Yeah. Can I remove this from the screen for a second?
I've done more yelling. This is just.
Yeah, grown-ups couldn't handle all the hell that you children were living through, all the shame on those who knew and did nothing. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Blodge says that is so upsetting. Oh my goodness, I'm tearing up. I'm so sorry that this has happened, is happening to your family. I know. Thank you for being understanding, because not a lot of people
for listening, honestly, and for not turning away.
Not turning, like you just talked about, not turning blind eye to the darkness.
I'm sorry. I know that this is uncomfortable. I know I know this is wildly uncomfortable, but if we aren't addressing this, if we aren't taking steps to get people the help that they need, because look, honestly, the government system isn't that much better either.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not that much better. So we've got a broken system.
We thought they were going to stay with siblings. Well, one didn't, but then she was 18, so she could just move out. But then the one victim was put back in the home to live with her abuser. But
two of her abusers.
But thankfully now that is no longer the case.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to see. Maybe I didn't export that one video. Oh, wait, maybe this is it. So yeah, so I was trying to find that video where Pastor Johnson was saying.
There's a lot of videos.
Yeah, there's a lot of clips. Because that meeting was over 2 hours long too. And there's so much we could share that we're not sharing just because we're already 2 hours into this.
I think it's fine. We can always.
All right, so I think this is it.
I know from 25 years ago, I dealt with a little bit of this. Okay. And I know CPS was called in. They reached out to me. I did the best I could to get them that it needed to come out. And so there was a allegation throughout it that they just, all they've tried to do is cover it up over the years. Well, not completely, okay?
Not completely. Yeah, well, listen to this.
Like, mom's so scared that her secret is going to be found out, that everybody's going to know that we're all messed up because of her parenting, hers and dad's. We've always been. And that was what had always driven me nuts, that we were supposed to be that Christian homeschool family that went around singing. And people saw us as this cute little Christian perfect family, and we came home and had to deal with the verbal abuse and sometimes physical. But we were supposed to go out and tell everybody that we were fine.
So I got that.
And didn't include the sexual abuse because
yeah,
as we'll find out tomorrow.
The only thing you can cite is something 25 years ago and not even related to anything on that timeline that Cheryl shared. Not to mention stuff that's gone on with other siblings or any of the beatings that Terry did or there's so much and that was covered up. We even have the time where Cheryl walked in on one sibling. Now, this sibling did rape you, but this point in time when she walked in on you, it would have been classified as sexual assault, sexually assaulting you. And she did nothing, just to wait till your father gets home, and he dragged you out of bed and beat you. We've talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this.
And she did an apology video after some of this stuff started coming out, and basically said that the reason she didn't tell anyone or didn't go to pastor, she's saying she should have gone to pastor, but she didn't because it would make them look bad, basically.
Yep.
Like, how does this happen in a Christian home and stuff? Well, that's not, a lot of other stuff has happened too. So it was always just, they were covering up a lot of it. They were trying to maintain that image that was so important. So, so Michael Johnson is just got his head buried in the sand and is bending over backwards to try to defend this, because he knows that he's also guilty at this point.
He's culpable. And yeah, it seems a little harsh, but I'm sorry, when this stuff gets to continue like this, then
sadly, but PJ is for real, because I mean, you heard it from his own mouth. Yeah, it could be.
Possibly.
The other thing was, yes. No, it's gonna stay there forever. So the other thing was, and you're gonna hear this in a second, not only were they planning, the family, the siblings all planning getting the children out of the home, but they're also planning on trying to get Cheryl into some kind of mental health institute or something.
Some mental help, some professional mental help of some kind, because at one point we were all in agreement on this.
And this is where things started to break down a little bit, because some siblings were then started to say, we can't take the children out because mom might commit suicide. So again, it's always the parents' needs. Again, going back to that enmeshed family, the parents' needs trump the children. Children might be getting abused, but we can't take them out because it'll hurt mom's mental health.
At that point, why aren't we getting her help now? Why are we risking our mother's life at this point? Why do we not care enough to step in, do the uncomfortable thing and get her help? Because she talked about, I don't know if you remember, but in this, I had conversations with people who were talking with mom at the time, and she was detailing how she was thinking about getting in the car and just driving down the street and running the van into a tree.
I think in that clip with the Destiny, did we play the full clip? I think we did. She mentions that your mom threatened suicide multiple times.
That was with her. This was another sibling talking about how she was detailing, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through it. Okay. Why aren't you getting help? Why aren't you getting help? If you're talking about actually walking through a plan, and that was why we were like, okay, siblings need to, I cannot remember the message, where the message went. I have a message of a sibling saying, we have to frame it carefully because they're not going to be mom's not going to be as accepting. Well, no, she's not. But you can't force people to go get help. But at some point, when do we decide that they are no longer in their right mind? Can you honestly listen to all of the things and say that she was honestly in her right mind?
So I just remembered I have a clip of this. I'm going to export that. But while I'm doing that, here's where they're talking about her being potentially mentally ill.
There's been a lot that should never have happened in our home. I hate to say it, but I feel like she's playing a game of making herself look like a victim right now, because that's what she does. And so she looks like she's being repentant. She looks like she's being sorry. She's saying all the things we want to hear because she's a narcissist. Until I actually see behavior changing, it's really hard to believe her, because that's what narcissists do. And she is a covert narcissist. She has every single one of them. I also believe she might have borderline personality disorder, because she checks every one of those off as well. And it's really scary. I'm worried about that, as far as like her parenting the kids the rest of the way. She gaslights a lot. she has a dissociative thing where she'll say something, do something, scream at you. Next minute doesn't remember she did it. She just completely disassociates herself with that. And it's happened for years and years and years. This is not coming from a place of, I want to take my parents down. They need help. They need a lot of help, especially my mom. And I don't know. I no longer know how to do that.
I also want to say that, you know, I think mom needs help. I am leaning more towards the side of her. And that was actually one of our original plans, was to get the kids out. And later somebody was going to have a conversation with mom and tell her what we thought about her and her needing therapy or something. That was our original plan. And it's kind of just derailed.
So yeah, so then back to not wanting to take the kids out because Cheryl might need a child there so she's not lonely and doesn't hurt herself. Here's a piece of that.
We don't know if mom's going to need a kid, or if we don't know if she's going to rather be alone or if she's going to feel super lonely or but I do want to say, Cora, thanks for saying all that. That helps me. I think I've just been lying to myself and a lot of stuff, so thank you for that.
So there's that, and then the last thing,
Again, putting the needs of the child, of the
Right.
parent above the child.
There's so much more we could share, but we can move on. Just one last thing is, again, when we have this clip of Michael Johnson saying that basically children, that I made a big deal that children can't consent. He's like, well, no, children can say no, is what he said. And that was specifically referring to, again, that timeline with the ages 5 to 7, where, again, you've talked to the victim and she says she remembers it was very painful. She remembers being molested. But according to Pastor Johnson, she should have just said no.
And that
I know Reagan made a big issue about children can't consent, but children can say no. Children can say, you know, again, unless it's a parent and they're in fear, but if it's another child.
And that's also, right, Cheryl claims to not know about that, but that's the same incident.
And
where,
mom was like, I never knew she was molested. And I said, I told you 9 years ago when it happened. And mom was like, I didn't know anything about this. And like, mom went straight from yelling at her about that to.
So.
Which I detailed that kind of whiplash has happened. Yeah.
So yeah, the second bathroom is really the only thing I got wrong, but that doesn't really help their case at all. It makes it worse in my mind because it's showing how you think it's it's proving two things. One, you know the girls are in danger, and two, you don't think it's that big of a deal. That's what that proves, that you got made such a big deal about the second bathroom that I got that wrong. And then we'll have other siblings confirm that that's the only thing I got wrong in the video. And then again, the only thing you can focus on is how many views it's getting. I think I also had a clip for that, but I didn't upload it. So, but anyway, that was one of the few things that they kept going on, is that it was getting a bunch of views, but it was just them who were watching it and sharing it. I wasn't sharing it with anyone.
They kept refreshing the page and adding views and thinking a lot more people were
goes up.
watching
Yeah.
it.
So you can see the date up there. So that's the time when the video was published and from when they had watched it. I think that's the day after the meeting. The meeting was August 26th, and this is the day after, because I know some of the siblings went and watched it the day after as well. So you can see there's like 3 recurring viewers here. And there's only 13 total unique viewers. So only 13 people have seen it. And there's a lot of people in the Long family, plus Michael Johnson.
Yes.
Plus we both had watched it separately. So that's not that many people. It's all in the family. But instead of being concerned about all this abuse that's happening, they're just like, who's seeing this? We got to shut this down.
Because again, it goes back to the image. Got to maintain the image.
Not that we even felt bad about that. But at that point in time, we're trying to keep it in the family.
Yeah, we were trying to keep it in the family.
I don't know why we still thought these people are reasonable, but they're not. But also there's like actual names of people, what they did and stuff, and we're trying to still keep that undercover. So we don't want to share that. That's why we're doing this, partly why we're doing this video series, and we're not using the names. So there's that. So yeah, here's just like some of all the, that's 10 people right there. So you just need to come up with like 3 other people. I don't know who else would have seen that. So yeah, highlights from the meeting, we kind of went through those, but basically Michael Johnson doesn't take the abuse seriously. Funnily enough, earlier, Emily says, don't diminish each other's experiences because we're all on the same page and people are remembering stuff. She says that mom ran the home and there were beatings that happened, not spankings. Did I play that one?
I thought you did.
I think I did. That too, yeah. Emily believes that Cheryl has borderline personality disorder, which is very dangerous. Emily and Stephanie, they also talked about, I do have a clip of this, but I don't think I uploaded it either, but how the parents made the older children spank the younger children. You've talked about this too.
Yes.
So you just had 2 other people confirming that. People doubt that. I can go post the clip. I think by now you've seen that we have evidence for everything we're saying.
That's why we're not afraid to say what we're saying, because we know it's not slander. We know it's not defamation.
Right. The whole reason I did that video to Terry is because I was hearing all this stuff. That's what.
And we're like, well, hey, if you're not aware.
So again, right, he tries to defend Cheryl and Terry by pointing out that he was actually called 25 years ago and CPS got involved. And so that Reagan's allegation that the Long parents are covering it all up isn't completely true. But it means it is somewhat true. It is partially true, at least in your own mind. We already posted what the Long children had to say on that. We also have a clip of Emily saying everyone's been touched by sexual abuse.
Yeah, as far as the sexual abuse goes, like every single one of us has been touched by it.
So yeah, I got that. Isaac tries to say there were spankings and not actually beatings. We played that clip earlier, but it dawns on him in real time that they were actually beatings, and he even says later that he was lying to himself, which is really heartbreaking, but also just fascinating to see in real time that this is a real thing, that people can be abused and not realize it until later.
Yeah. Which is again one of the reasons why we're putting so many definitions in here, because of that, I've received a couple of different messages from other people who are saying, hey, because of your definitions, I've been able to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I just realized your name is Incest is Bad MK. What are you talking about? It's so fun. You guys, you gotta love it.
It's no big deal. The comments.
Yeah, I can't. Okay. There we go. Yeah, it is. And that really damages the relationship between the siblings.
Majorly.
Mm-hmm. And that's not just they pass off all the parenting duties to the older children. You guys each had like a different child you were assigned to.
Yeah, me and another sibling, Mackenzie, were spanking the siblings too, until the younger ones, until we were like, oh, wait a second, this isn't our job. Why are we doing this? So we went to mom, who was on the computer, where she was frequently after 2007.
Well, yeah, you heard Corey say that when Terry was beating up the kids, she's just click, click, click on the computer.
Click. Pretty common knowledge. And
yeah, I don't know if I should play more of hers because I think there's more names. I don't know.
Okay, we were like, we're not doing this anymore. These are not our kids. You need to discipline them. This doesn't feel right.
So we already played that clip where Emily and Corey were like, we need to get the kids out. The screaming. We talked about that. Oh, Pastor Michael Johnson also said he's seen Terry's anger and violence. I do definitely need to play that.
You need to play that one because that was pretty. Because look, there's this narrative that he helped the family out, and
I have it.
Okay, good.
I'll play it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm not sure I can provide the counseling that your mom and dad need. I think I can work with your dad on the anger. We've talked many.
Whoa. Pause it.
What?
Pause. Sorry to scare you.
No, I'm reacting like, what the heck?
Well, let's just do this back to back real quick.
So I watched it, and this was Friday afternoon, and I got it. And it was devastating, okay? In fact, if even half of what the allegations are true, then I would almost say these parents don't even need to have any children, okay? And so I'm
going to play it again. So if these are just such loving, amazing parents, and there's no way even half of this stuff is true, how come they're out of your league when it comes to counseling them?
And why didn't you recommend someone to counsel them, for Pete's sake?
Anyway, back.
I'm not sure I can provide the counseling that your mom and dad need. I think I can work with your dad on the anger. We've talked many times about it, and again, I didn't know all the extent of it. Okay, but now that you share it, I can see that. That's a problem. Now he's at a point. Obviously, I've seen times if he could have got to Michael, he just throws a chair or something. If he could have got to him, he might have hurt him if he. But now he's not going to be able to hurt Michael. Michael is strong as a horse. So, you know, I'm not feared for Michael's physical thing, unless but just the anger. That's just not healthy.
And he's told the kids multiple times over the past couple of months he wishes he wasn't their parent.
Yeah, and I've heard that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know. Yeah, where is that coming from? I mean,
all 3 children. I mean,
because
all
you're
3.
so awful.
I don't know.
Is that what that he doesn't want? I don't know. It's like he can't seem to get over they won't obey me, they won't respect me. Okay.
Oh my gosh, where do we begin with that clip?
The whole we can talk about his anger, dude, at this point, it's been 25 years. Someone else needs to take over.
Why haven't you resigned yet as a pastor? You're clearly ineffective at best and a malignant force at worst. And so just because, so he could have hurt one of his children badly, he said, but he just missed. So it's not that big of a deal. So it's like,
and that's already happened, as we've proved multiple times, that his anger did result in badly bruised and wounded children.
yeah, it's already happened in the past. And it was described to Michael Johnson in this meeting. But he's like, well, because he has ALS now, he can't hurt anyone now. So I guess we'll just forget about that.
Which honestly, at this point, is God's justice. Okay?
I kind of wish he was alive to see all our videos.
This would have been fun.
What else was it? What else? There's something else. Oh yeah, like again, he's like,
it's been a long time.
Instead of just saying like, wow, he's got a real character problem. Instead of finding faults with him, he's like, what's making him do this? Is it because the children aren't obeying? Is it because they're just not respecting him?
And I'm trying to get him off of that.
What fault can we find with the children?
Again, it always
because apparently there are some legitimate reasons to throw chairs at your children, I guess. Like me personally, I would have thought there's no legitimate cause to do that, but I guess in some cases there is.
To throw chairs at your children, no.
If they're not obeying you or not respecting you. Man, we got some good commenters tonight. The ineptitude is strong with that, man.
Thank you for staying with us until 12:30.
Oh my gosh, we're so sorry we started so late. I was like putting together clips and I have to keep pushing it back because like, I don't have these clips. All right. We're getting closer to the end. We're almost to the end, I think. So like always, the abuse gets whitewashed and downplayed. Oh yeah, at one point, Michael Johnson said he focused on like, oh, the physical touching stopped. So if it's not, and we already know lots of physical touching happened, but he skipped over that and skipped forward to a point in time like, so no physical touching is happening. So that means you're not actually being molested. But that's not even true if you look up the definition of sexual molestation. It's wrong. Legal definition of molestation. Molestation is the crime of engaging in sexual acts with minors, including touching of private parts, exposure of genitalia, taking of pornographic pictures. So we already had that. We have taking off her clothes in the middle of the night. We have the video camera in the bathroom. Obviously rape and inducement of sexual acts with the molester or with other children. And variations of these acts. Molestation also applies to incest by a relative with a minor member, and additionally, any sexual act short of rape.
Short of rape.
Oh, my rape's listed up there then. That's why it made me pause. So basically, it's just a catch-all short of rape. So
anything. So you don't even have to be touching. You don't have to touch the person.
I think I played that clip earlier where he's like not taking it very seriously.
You don't even have to touch the person for it to be molestation. So they don't even know their definitions.
Yeah.
Which again,
they're
important.
They're getting mad at us for using too strong of language, like saying that they're a predator or saying that they're molesting.
If
like,
you have the qualifications of a predator, you're a predator.
We looked up these definitions before we said them.
Which I'm going to be detailing as Harry was a predator tomorrow.
So. Oh yeah, we already talked about how Michael Johnson at one point, and just skipped over, glazed over that one. Also talked about how Michael Johnson at one point said that the brother was being tempted sexually by his sisters because he has a teen and has hormones. Yeah, that's not normal. behavior.
That's not normal.
Again,
no.
And again, it's not a broken record, but we're not coming down on him or saying that he's so gross or horrible or anything.
No.
It's a red flag. If you have these urges, something has gone wrong somewhere. Let's get you help.
Yes.
Let's not leave you. Number one, just to your own, on your own.
Certain by certain name.
Yes. Yeah.
We're probably killing people with that.
Yeah.
That clip.
It's probably not funny anymore.
It's funny.
Why do you guys love incest so much? Michael Johnson, why do you love incest so much?
Why is it okay? Why does this seem okay to you?
I know you guys live out in the country, but you don't have to hit every stereotype. This isn't a bingo game. It also boggles the mind that this culture was so tyrannical when it came to sexual purity, right?
Yes.
That screaming video we showed you of Cheryl.
After everything that I went through with her, and you watched me go through it. You watched me!
What did she go through? What was she mad at? Why was she screaming at that child? It's because she was texting a boy she liked.
Just texting.
So that is...
I'm sorry.
Pull out all the stops. But they're utterly blasé when it comes to sex abuse and incest.
And I want to go on the record and say this is not just my family. A lot of ATI families, ATI/IBLP families are like this. Inside of the purity culture, okay, there is a lot of emphasis put on we as the women are taught that it is our role when it comes to modesty to uphold our end of the bargain by, oh, I'm sorry, I'm violating those rules right now. I could have caused someone to tempt just by that. This is a pretty good example. Fine, I'll use myself.
Hope your siblings aren't watching. Sorry if we've defrauded you.
This is gonna cause, okay, and I want to point out, I've mentioned this before in other videos, but again, I'll reiterate it here, just in case other people haven't watched the other videos. This responsibility was not put on just the women of the culture. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of the Anakin line.
Not just the men, but the women and
the children. Yes, children. Children were being held responsible for the grown men of the community to not fall into temptation. You doth protest too much. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
They probably weren't allowed to read Shakespeare, though, were they? Did you guys read Shakespeare?
Some of us, it depended on which household you're in. It was a mixed bag on that one.
I think that's from Shakespeare.
We're allowing adult men to be turned on and attracted, not just, okay, brothers and father, that's pretty heinous too, but all the adult men in the community were couldn't be blamed if I wore a tight shirt.
Wasn't there one family that had to leave because the wife didn't dress modestly enough and was a problem for one of the members in the church?
Yes.
And it wasn't even like that immodest, was it?
And it was right here. You're looking at it right here. That was pretty much the extent of it. But this is what you get when you hyper focus on modesty. Like, if you hyper focus on purity, if you're so focused and you're like, oh my gosh, I must not be tempted by bra straps.
Didn't you guys have inspections where you have to line up? You have to like bend over. You have to stand in the light.
If you showed cleavage when you bent over, if that could be seen, put a tank top on that makes it higher. I cannot tell you how many layers of clothes I wore, like just to leave the house.
Your father had to do that inspection, so he's literally inspecting you to see if he's being.
Go stand in the sunlight. Let's make sure the sun isn't shining through your dress to see your legs. If it is, you need another layer, or you need to change your skirt, or you need a slip.
So that's being sexualized intensely right there by your father.
Intense sexualization.
Yes. I like this, Pastor. How can we do a swap? I'm in favor of that.
I'm in favor of this one because, like, look, if you are turned on by your daughters, there is something deeply wrong with you, and you have missed something somewhere along the lines. And if the leaders around you are okaying that, run. Run. Because that's not okay.
So then Cheryl messaged me trying to get me to take down the video. I'm not going to share the whole thing, but here's part of it. Just to show, like Cheryl thinks this is a good defense. She thinks this makes her look good.
Yeah, that's the reason why we wanted to point this
Yeah,
out.
she says the girls were told repeatedly. So they're good parents. They told the girls repeatedly, not just once, not to use the small bathroom or shower in there when the boys were in the back bedroom, because you had to pass from that bedroom through the bathroom to get to the rest of the house. Although you had windows, you could open and go out a window.
Which one of us had to do?
Yeah, you guys have done that before. It was a simple request, very simple request, right? Simple. We do have another bathroom. They were also asked repeatedly. Yeah, not until very recently,
Until very recently.
Because they put it in for Terry, so they had wheelchair access.
Yes, that's the reason it was put. That is the reason it was put in, because a parent suddenly needed another bathroom.
Yes, after growing up with
12 people.
12 people in there.
12 people sharing one bathroom
For decades. Well, I don't know how, not a decade, not decades, maybe a decade and a half.
A decade, yeah, something like that.
So they were also asked repeatedly, good parents again, not to wear their night clothes, which are skimpy, around their brothers. They would ignore that plea as well. So it's the girls' fault. Sorry, girls.
Yeah, because again, we were taught if you're wearing skimpy clothes and you get molested or raped or,
yeah, we beat that.
Objectified. We've beat that one.
So then I replied, this just proves that you knew that your boys were a threat to your girls, or you wouldn't have taken this step. Yet you didn't do enough and you didn't learn because you had rules in place when there was someone else to stay with you and abuse many of your children. Plus, you're basically punishing the girls in this issue. Everything we've said. I told it to her through text there, Facebook Messenger. And then she's mad that I'm not taking the video down because all you could hear that his legacy is awful. Terry, all you could hear. And I'm like, well, I explicitly said in my video, there's still time. He can still love his children, blah, blah, blah.
That was the whole point.
She's like, I'm not going to allow you to heap more shame and guilt on me. You don't know me. You don't have all the facts. Again, we don't have all the facts. But she's the one that keeps claiming she doesn't know anything.
Proven we have a lot of facts.
The only thing you heard was you failed repeatedly. And this is the legacy you're leaving behind.
Then you completely missed the message.
So I'm like, I know what my own wife went through. I know what many of your children have gone through. I know enough. I'm sure there is more. I would have made an even more harsh video if I had known. Guess that's what we're doing now. I'm not looking to heap shame and guilt. I'm looking for the parents to take responsibility for what went on in their own home and then try to make things better rather than trying to protect themselves by censoring the truth. There is a reason why we have a sex offender list and everyone is made aware of the sex offenders in the area so people can be aware and take precautions. And let's see. Yeah, whatever. So they're saying we did. My legacy. Yeah, we know. We just cemented your legacy.
We've been accused of cremating.
Which is a good description because you only cremate something that's already dead. So he says, I said, Reagan, I did take precautions. I've tried to deal with each situation, ... Yeah, we've just illustrated how you've dealt with different situations. Also, just look at the results. You clearly haven't done enough when this has been going on for decades, and it's still bad enough today that your children had to be removed from your home by your other children. But I'm not the person to talk to about these things. That's the last thing I said to her. And look, she says, nobody had to be removed. I allowed them to go because, again, I was mad when the plan changed and they tried to placate the adult. Like, we're not taking your kids away. We are just helping you, giving you a break. But no, like that was the whole plan, was to take your kids away. I want to make sure she knew that. But maybe she didn't know that until now. Unfortunately. Because she stopped looking at me like this awful ogre for 1 second and hear me out.
So I created a mock-up and then
you just share it with the couples.
I did two siblings.
Two siblings. But yeah.
It's my attempt
It
at
was her
trying to deal with.
It was just her face on a shirt that said "Awful Ogre."
Okay, listen. Also, I feel bad about it, but I was getting. Do you have in here somewhere where I was getting phone calls and video calls?
No.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
So all of this, they want to say that we don't have the facts. However, when this was all blowing up in 2023, I became a hub for people processing traumatic memories of them getting getting
I really wanted to show it, but she'd already deleted it from our Printful back end.
Fine.
Well, you got a picture.
I still
You have a picture.
I still have it. I'll airdrop it and you can have it. I wasn't sure if it was disrespectful or not, so I was trying to. I don't know at this point.
Child abuse is kind of disrespectful.
That's a good point. Here, I'll airdrop it.
But yeah, I remember like you had to drop everything, and I had to kind of like I was like working and trying to take care of the house and the kids because I'm like
I just had a baby.
Because I'm like I want
4 weeks before.
I'm like I want you to be there for your siblings.
Yeah.
Who are remembering stuff at these horrible things that have happened to them, and they need someone to talk to because they can't talk to anyone else in that family.
Nope. So I was getting sometimes there was one day I got 4 calls, some video, some just phone calls from different siblings who were having everyone was having memories come up. Now this is common. This is very common, and I'm gonna have the backing for this tomorrow and showing how this is a thing, and it's not some people just call
penultimate episode.
Yeah, some people just think it was mass hysteria and that we were just playing off of each other. No. All of us were remembering different things, different abusers, different people, different instances, different timelines, different years of things happening to us. And I was in the trenches writing as much down as I could because everyone was losing their mind. And they were like, look, I just screamed in my car. I just screamed in my car because I can't handle this. Or I just remembered this person did this to me today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Let's get you some help. Are you going to get some therapy? Do you need to make a police report? What needs to happen? Are you okay? Do you need to get an STD test? Like these were the conversations that were happening day after day for like 3 weeks straight.
Well, yeah, one of your siblings even said remembered being raped, and all your mom said was you need to get an STD test. Texted her, and that's all she said.
That's all she said.
Yeah, okay. So that's why I wanted to show. I forgot why I wanted to show this because I mentioned that this happened just about to all of your children by at least 18 different people. That's really hard to do, even if you're trying.
And that number has grown. Just
yeah,
so you know.
That's a
I don't even know what the number
gross
is. Gross
underestimation.
I don't even know what the number is at this point.
I should because she never pushed. She never pushed back on that. She never challenged that number. So it's like this is knowledge to everyone now. She never said there's not been 18 people who.
Nope.
Never said that.
No one has ever. The only thing they said we got wrong was the stupid bathroom.
Yes.
No one has ever challenged anything ever anywhere.
Going back to Emily suing us, she doesn't want us to recant anything. She even said she's agreed with us. She just doesn't like us using the video clips.
Which I get.
I'm gonna share a clip from her later where she even says, "Why does Reagan have to take that video down?" Maybe I should just play it now.
Yeah, just play
I think it's coming up.
How long is it?
It's not. It's decently long.
Okay, because I
Yeah.
know. Like...
Yeah. All right. I do want you to hear this. I think this is it. So, yeah, I'm going to show all the reactions to my video at the siblings had after
Did
they
you want
watched
to
it.
before we move on for the awful ogre?
Oh yeah, awful ogre. So this is the front of the shirt. I survived my mom, and the back of the shirt was.
I still feel kind of bad about this, but.
Yeah, but you didn't share it publicly or sell it or anything.
I'm sharing it publicly now.
Oh yeah. She's the one that called herself an awful ogre. It's not you.
Coping mechanisms are there for a reason. Because like I said, I was getting calls like this left and right, talking to different siblings and like hearing. Not helping.
Well, we are going to set up a merch shop later for our Andromeda Coast band, but I don't know if we're going to have that for sale or not.
We might have a different photo on the back of it. We might have something else. I don't know.
So let's see what came. Let's see what came left. What was left in my...
Emily talking about why does Reagan have to take that thing down?
So, yeah. Okay, aftermath of the meeting. Even though Pastor Johnson thought my video was so horrible that it should have only gone to Terry, he also recommends that the Long Children go and watch it. You hear him say that in there too.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He was like,
Except
you
for,
should all go watch
except
it.
for Emily. Tells Emily not to watch it. So, also, Emily does say that I shouldn't be counseling Terry, even though we already outlined earlier why we had such a close relationship, and he asked for that. But she also later recounts this, which you'll hear in a second.
Recants.
Yeah, I'm
I know it's late.
unable to talk.
It's like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, we already kind of talked about this all throughout. People keep saying we don't know the facts.
So appreciate it.
Okay, so yeah, so here's a text of what she. Okay, first I'm gonna play the audio because we played all the clips from the meeting with Pastor Johnson, but it turns out I think Stephanie hadn't watched it, Emily hadn't watched it, Isaac had watched it because Cheryl sent it to him.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if Corey had watched it.
I can't remember.
But like half the children there hadn't even seen the video, and
That they were talking
Pastor
about.
Johnson's going around how horrible it is, and I should never have made it. I should never share it. I should take it down. But you guys, I think you should go watch it. So then they watch it. I'm going to show you all the reactions. So here's what Emily's reaction was to watching my video that you saw earlier, that 5 minute. I didn't show the whole thing, but
It was addressed to Terry.
Yeah.
Message to a father.
Mm-hmm.
I want everyone to know this, and I want everyone to hear this. Okay.
So she also says she wants everyone to hear this. So there's that.
So in the meeting yesterday, if everybody listened to that, Pastor told me not to listen to Reagan's message. And I was like, whoa, it must have been really horrible. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go watch that video. What are they all talking about? And I went and watched it. And I missed like the last 10 minutes because I couldn't anymore. I was like, what is Pastor talking about? He got caught up on like, well, there were some lies in there. Like the girls only have one bathroom. Yeah, because the other one's mom and dad's. Like that was the one hiccup he got. Like that wasn't true. And like I'm listening to it all and I'm like, but this is all true. Dad needs to hear this and you're not gonna tell him. I'm like, what is Pastor's like? Yes, we can give grace, but what the heck? So, and then I'm going to call Pastor and I'm going to ask him why he thinks this video is wrong. And then I'm going to tell him everything in that video was correct. Everything that man said is correct. Reagan is right. Reagan hit everything right on the nail, guys. And if you haven't listened to it, you should listen to it. It was so validating. Haley was right. It was so validating. And this is the first time I've been able to cry over the last week and a half that we've been dealing with this. Over what mom and dad did to me. I've cried over what mom and dad did to everybody else. But I have shoved it away because I'm like, I'm healed. It's fine. Everything's fine. I just got to keep it together for everybody. But Reagan was so right, guys. And there's no reason for that video to be taken down. Because when you confront this seems harsh to him because he's not in this. This was going on under Pastor's supposedly watchful eye. I have tried talking to Mom before about things that she hurt me with. And 9 times out of 10, I ended up being the one apologizing to her. If Mom wants to treat me like the enemy, let her. I will be the enemy. I will fight. Because I'm done being Mom's little plaything. I'm not going to allow Pastor to tell me what I should and shouldn't feel. Or how I should and shouldn't react to certain situations. He did not go through what I went through. He did not feel what I felt. Mom has hurt me long enough. She's controlled my life long enough. I am going to call Pastor when I'm a little bit more calm. And I'm just going to tell him, ask him why that video needs taken down. Like, reiterate, please tell me exactly why you think that video should be taken down. And then I'm going to tell him, why would you take down something that's completely true? Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable. So yeah, I wish I'd listened to it before I went, honestly. And I could have defended Haley better. I know in that video, it probably sounded like we kept throwing Haley Mackenzie under the bus, mainly Haley, but I was trying to be very careful what I said because I didn't want there to be, I know that he hears mom and dad's side of everything. And he's always been on their side, so I had to be very careful what I said, knowing that it could be taken wrong, but also knowing everybody's going to listen to this, so I had to make sure that there was no slander or anything. So
where'd we go? So Emily, why should we remove our the audio clips when they're all true just because it makes you feel uncomfortable? Those are your own words. So I hope this will help you to wake up too and remind you
the fight that you once had.
Yeah. And you're still her plaything, apparently. Because I don't think you actually wanted to sue us. We know Cheryl was talking about that. She was the one that was leading that. So she must have somehow manipulated you into sending that email to us. So I'm so sorry that you got caught back up in that. But that's enmeshment for you.
That's enmeshment. And that's also why we're just straight up calling people out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because to remind you,
mm-hmm.
to wake you back up.
So basically, Emily did end up calling Pastor Johnson, and this is what she told us in the group, what she told him, basically what you just heard in the audio. That's all true. And that I never sent it to my family, which is true. It's a private video. And if the only reason it needs taken down is for you and Dad to feel more comfortable about things, then those are the wrong reasons. We lived that. Welcome to our hell.
Yep.
And so then this was Pastor Johnson's reply. He says, "Thank you, Emily, for letting me know. My only reason for suggesting that you not watch it is because it was a graphic description of Haley getting raped. And I did not want to make things worse. The only other thing I think I recall in the video was that he states that your parents were aware of the molesting and raping and did nothing about it. To me, that is not completely accurate. Even if it's a little bit accurate, that's a problem."
Going back to
I know.
Oh my gosh.
He's not going to be like, wow, it's really all true. I remember saying if even half of it's true, then these people don't even deserve to have parents.
So I watched it, and this was Friday afternoon, and I got it. And it was devastating, okay? In fact, if even, half of what the allegations are true, then I would almost say these parents don't even need to have any children, okay?
Of course, he says almost. Almost would say that. But anyway, Emily just told him it's all true. It's not just us. And still worming his way out of it, saying that they did call him when there was stuff going on and CPS got involved way back 25 years ago, before most of you guys are even alive. He said, "I'm so sorry that you guys have to endure all this. I am sorry that I was not more available and connected with you all. I tried to help you, And his wife and I are praying fervently that everything can be acknowledged and confessed and genuine reconciliation and healing can take place. Love and prayers." So I wash my hands of this weirdness.
Okay, pilot.
And this was Mackenzie's response to that, to Pastor Johnson's response, saying that they actually still let him live there. And the catalyst for throwing him out was that he quit school, not that he had raped and done things so horrible that
people didn't want to there.
Yeah. Not that the
rest of the kids were in danger.
Rest of the kids were still in danger. Mom said that he quit school. That was God's way of getting him out of the home. She didn't get the hint when he repeatedly sexually assaulted her daughter or she waited until he committed the truly unpardonable, which was quitting school. And then Amanda reacted to it too. So this was Cheryl going through and basically trying to explain it away, saying that they didn't know what was going on and that they had rules in place, not allowed to change diapers.
Sounds familiar.
He was not to be alone with any of the girls. Oh, when did we hear that before? Not allowed to change diapers. Whoa. Common sense stuff. When we discovered that he had molested people, I was the one to confront him and got him to confess, and I took him to the police station. So she said she took him to the police station right away, but other siblings have said that he was in the home for a year. That's her spin on the situation. And Amanda said his bedroom was upstairs. Like, how can she say that he was never to be alone with us? So even it's all lies. It's all make believe.
It's all make believe and it's all pretend rules to make them feel
Mhm.
like they had a control over the situation, and this just keeps continuing.
But those rules from 25 years ago are the same rules they put in place in 2023. So they're literally never learning, and they're just repeating the same mistakes over and over again through the decades.
Which again is something that borderline personality people have a problem with, is understanding, and narcissists. They don't understand consequences.
So after that meeting, then Amanda and Ryan go and watch my video. And Amanda says, Ryan and I watched Reagan's video for the first time together last night. I was horrified to know the things that have transpired, which again are all true according to you and Emily and others, Mackenzie.
Everyone's confused.
Yeah, everyone knows it's all true. Ryan was very appreciative of the video and called him the next day. Yes, Ryan called me and thanked me for the video and said that more people need to know about this. It was hard for me separating myself from mom, dealing with things I wasn't aware of. Losing family, it's been very hard and I'm struggling, but harsh is what is needed, especially to the adults that should have been protecting you guys. The last thing people should be worried about is how many people have viewed it and how they look now. So
Enmeshment. It's called your name.
So Corey also supported my video. She said, so I debriefed with someone last night, sobbing because I felt like trash after leaving pastor's house. So this is how she felt immediately after that meeting with Pastor Johnson, where he whitewashed everything, downplayed everything, didn't really even hear them, what they were saying. And she says, pastor was nervous, and the person she was meeting with said that was rightfully so because he knew about so-and-so all those years ago. He's the one that got us into IBLP. And then mom and dad went with the bearings.
She meant beatings.
Beatings. And then mom and dad went with the beatings. So should CPS get wind, he could be in trouble. He was more concerned, as you heard, that the video of dad was being public, which is disgusting because it actually helped us see, wow, we were failed as children. I'm so glad we didn't go with him at all in the beginning. Not sure, but she's referring to that. I can't remember.
That was the first original plan. In 2021 was to go to pastor originally.
Oh, in 2021 to get the kids removed.
And then
yeah, he went
eventually they were going to resurrect that plan. But then Isaac said, why are we involving pastor in this?
Yeah.
Why is he?
Yeah, he's always just been defending.
Let's just deal with this ourselves. So that was why the decision was
because your family is his golden family. He's the one shining example he can point to of, look, they were these awful sinners and now they turned around, they're this perfect family. If that goes away, then what does he have?
I'm sorry, but it was a mess.
What fruit does he have? Nothing. It was a mess. And I told that person that he downplayed all the sexual stuff. So it's not just us saying this. Corey's saying he's downplaying it too. And the person she was talking to said, if CPS gets wind of that inappropriate touching, I hated every moment of that meeting. It felt like the meeting with mom. You go into, like we played the clip of that earlier, where she was crying in the beginning and making it all about the girls and she's the victim. It felt like that meeting with mom. You go into knowing one thing and come out feeling like a pile of bleep. But Haley's words kept going through my head. We are defending, why are we defending people that didn't protect us? I'm not saying pastor isn't a good man, but surely he could have seen the signs of abuse all those years on our faces, going to church every Sunday religiously. No pun intended.
Every freaking Sunday.
He's got a lot to be scared of right now, and he's trying to shift blame because if he failed our family, he failed as a pastor, and we are his last standing witness of a family you would have never thought this would happen to. Yeah, that's what I just said. What was I going to comment here? Oh, yeah. So, again, like we said, the family's all united. They go into that one meeting with Cheryl. She gives her whole sob story, and then the alliance breaks apart, and then factions formed. And by the end of it, it was just basically you and me and like one other person, and everyone was against us.
And then for a time, it was just, again,
just us. Yeah, we were the only ones that had a real problem. We're still fighting.
Which we have an advantage. Distance. That's an advantage.
Yeah. PJ's legacy, man, these legacies are pretty crappy. Then Mackenzie also supported my video. She said that seemed to be what Pastor fixated on in the meeting. He said if he'd gotten a message like that, it would make him feel shame or condemnation, meaning the video I had sent to Terry, or something like that. He kept harping on the fact that it needed to be taken down. Corey thinks it's because he also makes him look bad, but nothing Reagan said was untrue. He didn't even tell the half of it either. I didn't even tell the 1% of it, probably.
There's so much
So
I still don't know.
everyone agrees with us. Everyone's on our side.
I mean, if you think this is bad, you think what we shared is bad. This isn't even. This is only part of
No,
it.
we've remembered so much more, and other people have told us so much more. Just today, someone told us new stuff that's absolutely horrifying, like the worst stuff. And again, PJ says if even half of the allegations are true, I'm not going to play that video again because I've played it so many times. Even half the allegations are true, that these people even shouldn't have children. We have a video where Mackenzie talks about Michael Johnson on our YouTube channel, but move on. So then CPS gets involved, and
I want to state why CPS got involved.
okay, why did CPS?
So in one of the earlier clips that we played, Destiny talked about how she couldn't go to the doctor properly. She couldn't get the help that she needed.
That's why in my video you heard me say your children are literally dying. I wasn't being hyperbolic. It's because
certain individuals have been diagnosed with health issues that could take them down at age 25.
Yeah, and
heart attacks at 25. I'm sorry. Does that sound normal to you?
That's from the trauma and the abuse.
That is from the trauma and the abuse that they have sustained, and they can't even remember most of it.
We've had a doctor confirm that the only illness the only explanation for the illness that one of your siblings had was abuse, sexual abuse.
Was sexual abuse specifically. The one sibling.
And we told your mom that, and she did nothing.
The one sibling collapsed at work, and they went to the hospital. Corey went with them, and then had to tell the nurse what had been going on. That's why CPS was called, because they were finally able to get the medical attention that they needed, and CPS was involved.
Yeah, because
that's what mom has been afraid of all these years, and trying to keep CPS from being aware of certain things.
They had to tell the doctors why they were there and what happened. And so when the nurse heard that, they're like, I have to call CPS. And so
she did the same thing to me. I was 18. I was not allowed to go to the doctor by myself. Absolutely not. No. So that's why CPS was called.
So then why
an investigation was put into place.
So then why did the investigation not yield any results?
Because Stephanie told the caseworker that they were safe. It was safe to send them back home. And that's a lie.
When they interviewed one of the victims, she was dissociating so much and had so much amnesia she didn't remember anything at that point in time or something. I don't know what wasn't she interviewed? One of the victims?
The one that was in question of whether they would go back home?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a whole forensic interview with a detective and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But because they were so damaged, they couldn't remember a whole lot. Because that's the problem.
But I know she said she didn't feel safe.
No, she didn't.
But I don't know why they let her go back. So I guess I don't know. See, stuff can slip through the cracks of CPS.
Because Stephanie stated that it was safe. Because Stephanie has been on mom's side the entire time and thought that one person was just being a brat. It was all their fault. That's why.
Yeah, and doctors are waking up to this. This is a great point by Marriott too. The physical effects of chronic exposure to trauma and abuse can be very devastating. So many people don't realize that damage extends beyond mental health.
Especially if it's repressed.
Yeah, and that's another reason why we're doing this, because a lot of physical health problems people have, it's because of trauma or abuse. And it can even be like an injury, an accident trauma, like life. And we just say, oh, just buck up and no big deal. But like, you can
you have unexplained pain. I'm sorry. Just take this pill for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but a lot of doctors are actually wising up to this and realizing if someone has some kind of illness or disease that can't be explained physically, they're now looking at emotional and trauma reasons for that.
Suppressed trauma specifically, because whether you deal with it or not, your body's going to give you the bill at some point. And this is why we have 30-year-olds being like, I feel so old right now, because they didn't deal with their trauma. They didn't know. And then their body's like,
it starts breaking down.
It's like
in your 30s.
Well, maybe I'll save that analogy for tomorrow because it's already late.
So because CPS did nothing, the family was giving up and thought they'd done enough and had been fractured, and we knew that one of the victims was going to be put back in that dangerous environment around 2 perpetrators.
Yep.
We thought our only recourse was to make a public video, post it on Facebook.
3 if you're counting mom.
Yeah, because we're like, the only thing that gets their attention is if their reputation is hit.
Yep.
So if we put it public, that will get them to take action maybe. And so we made that video and we just shared everything we knew, but we
We're trying to keep.
we kept the names out of it. Like we called them like
had a code.
sibling
Yeah.
A, B, C, D, and everything, and mixed them up so it wasn't in age order and stuff like that. And we only had that up for like less than a day because then Cheryl threatened to sue us. And we also heard from someone in the church that they were stepping in. The church was stepping in. They were going to get Cheryl help. They were going to get the family help. So like, okay, it achieved its objective. So we took the video down. Another.
Mention we were threatened to sue.
Yes, I did say
Okay.
that. Oh, I thought I had a picture in here somewhere.
I saw the picture too.
Maybe it's later.
You did. Oh yeah.
I don't know where
You're slapping in this.
but
probably after
one of the
that
children
mentioning.
though in the home also told us that the physical abuse from Cheryl stopped after our public video because she knew that we would hear about it and talk about it. So it did achieve that. Our video.
It did achieve that.
So we've been
Which has
giving
been-
some safety to the children from this.
Yeah.
Then there was
It's probably around here where you had the
talk
shot at the.
of the slapping and the screaming. So just kind of like back this up that's not just a one-off thing.
Nope.
Because again, you heard in the interview with Destiny and Emily about the slapping, and that in that video of Cheryl screaming, she had just slapped the girl in the video. That's why Destiny started filming, was because
Yes.
she just saw her get slapped in the face.
Because we
So-
needed evidence that
Things are
stuff
actually
were-
bad.
Yeah,
So
stuff was
before
as
we
bad as the girls were saying it.
did something as drastic as taking them out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were looking for not just their word, but like, do you have evidence? And we're like, okay.
And I've witnessed
Yeah.
mom slapping siblings across the face hard, like many times, even when I was there and when the kids were much younger. So it's not it's not a new thing.
So Amanda says, is mom getting physical like something new? Like, I didn't know this was a thing because she actually moved out when she was like 13. So she wasn't, and that was before they really got deep into ATI as much, and IBLP.
I mean, they were still pretty heavily in it when she was there.
Yeah, okay. I knew she yelled and lost her temper, but I had no idea she was getting physical with anyone. So then Mackenzie says she has backed into a corner and grabs the kids really hard, slaps them, and then there's just more people saying that they slapped them.
Yeah, she's done that to me.
Grabs them, slaps them.
Just held a fist threateningly in front
Yeah.
of her kid's face. Like, and I know it's hard. It's hard because this is something that people are uncomfortable with as women abusers. Like, we want to say that men are the only physically abused and domestically violent ones, but women are abusers too. Okay. Let's just get over it. Okay. Women can be abusive. They throw out the thing. Oh, women aren't physically violent. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
So basically here's the text where she sent us basically showing something from Cora saying, can I see someone posting a video of me on social media? And she says, I did not, nor do I now give my consent. You're both in the wrong. But our lawyer assured us we can post this and it's legal because number one, we didn't take the video.
Nope.
Number two, a person in the video gave us consent to share the video. Number three, Indiana is a single party consent state. So the person who was one of the persons in the video and the person who took the video consented. So that's really all you need. Yep. And then the video was sent to us and a bunch of the other siblings. So then we thought she's getting therapy, took the video down, and there's nothing happened for a while. But
yeah, I felt like it wasn't over. And I needed to at least share my story because I was like, look, in the original video, we had gone down the list of other siblings, and I was like, fine, I still get this. I still get to tell my story, and I wanted to show what we've learned, all the definitions, run through, like we've many times over, we've run through different definitions to highlight different things that parents need to look out for, that we as a society, I mean, look, the church has failed horribly in this area, in trauma and protecting children. I mean, how many times do we keep hearing of sexual abuse happening in church circles? Like, clearly there's a problem. Something has gone horribly wrong, and we need to deal with it. And kicking out the members who are perpetrating it, excommunicating them, I'm sorry, that's not helpful. They need help too. Okay? We can't just be like, oh my gosh, you can't be in our church anymore, you're shaming us. No.
But you also got to protect your members.
You need to help them, but you also need to protect the members. Okay? So dealing with it in-house sometimes doesn't work. And I like how
also, if crimes are committed, you are
legally obligated.
Legally and morally obligated to report that.
You need to. This is why we have the law. Okay, this is why we have the law. So this was why I was like, look, it's time. I need to do this.
Yeah, we're not to go taking revenge, right? Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. But
no, this isn't me taking revenge.
But the Bible also talks about that. How's it phrased? That the sword is in the power of the authorities and the government. That's their job to execute the laws, keep people safe, will dole out justice. So,
but if no one tells them they need to dole out justice, then how can they dole out justice? We cry, oh Lord, bring justice, but then stay silent.
Not enough
but
Christians,
then we stay silent.
Not enough Christians care about justice.
No, they don't.
And we are Christians, so we're not like anti-Christian.
No, I'm anti-weak Christian.
So here's how I started the series. We did a whole episode on I think it's episode 7 on why we're doing this series, but it's to set the record straight regarding what was taught on the 2 family blogs, that you don't have some magical panacea to having a great family and great children. Also, so that we're not complicit with our silence, because if you know about a crime and don't say anything, now you're guilty. And also James 4:17 says, remember, it is a sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. We also did the series to protect others. Also, hopefully to like wake up your siblings and help them get help.
Please wake up.
Give a light to others who have had similar experiences, and to share the true and powerful gospel, which we did last episode. Is it last episode or 2 episodes? I can't remember. Which takes us back to this. We're almost done wrapping up here. So this is how we get right after everything you heard from Emily saying I'm right, Haley's right, that this is all true. She now is threatening to sue us. Well, not anymore, because she did back down. Because this is how it ended. Our lawyer replied to her for us and said, after prayer and seeking wise counsel, I have decided to pursue this legally no further. Yeah, I'm sure it was the prayer and the wise counsel, not the letter our lawyer sent to her. So that's the end of that. But which takes us back to this. So Emily, you agree that everything Haley is saying is true at multiple points in time. You've even said this all needs to get out and have praised Haley for speaking out and telling the truth. And you've said you're not going to be controlled anymore. But the enmeshment keeps pulling you back in. So I hope that you finally get free of this.
Hope you can wake up.
And every time I hear about this, it just makes me think of Stephen King's It.
Oh,
this is basically
so
It in real life. If you don't know, Stephen King's It is more than a supernatural horror story. It's a chilling metaphor for the cycle of child abuse and trauma set in the town of Derry. The novel follows a group of, I haven't actually read the novel, I've just seen the recent films and the older
miniseries from the 90s.
Yeah. But the novel follows a group of children, the Losers Club, as they confront a shape-shifting entity that often appears as Pennywise the Clown, which is, however, it represents the evil lurking beneath the surface of society, particularly the abuse, neglect, and violence that children endure. The adults in Derry are disturbingly indifferent or willfully blind to the horrors. Like, they see it happening right in front of them and they do nothing, which is just like what's happening in your family. They're blind to the horrors happening around them, symbolizing how society often ignores or forgets childhood suffering. That's the other thing do I talk about that? As the children grow up and leave dairy, they begin to forget the trauma they experienced, highlighting how many adults repress or disconnect from their painful past.
Stephen King was so ahead of his time.
Which is crazy because yes, is kind of a lot of people don't know this, but
This was written in the 80s.
But the other thing about it is this monster. It comes back every 20 years to kill and devour children, basically. So the evil returns, and the now grown losers have to come back or called back to confront it because one of them stayed behind in dairy and never forgot. And they made a pact that if it ever came back, they would unite to stop it and kill it. So this guy who stayed behind, he ends up calling everyone from the losers club, and they're like, have their own lives now, and they had completely forgotten.
Which is
until
kind
he
of
called
what
them.
happened in 2023 with my family.
Yeah, a lot of people completely forgotten until something triggers it, and boom, there's the memory. So this illustrates that unless we face the trauma and break the cycle, the abuse will return, passed down, ignored, and perpetrated through generations. We know both your parents were abused, their grandparents were abused. I don't know how far back it goes.
It goes up and up and up.
It goes on down through the generations. It's still going on. Ultimately, it is a haunting reminder that true evil isn't just supernatural. It's the silent, forgotten wounds of childhood that only end when someone has the courage to remember and fight back. So this is real life it.
Here is something that people will often say to excuse what children go through. Well, children are resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, children are resilient. Some of them get out. Some of them get out. But then their adult bodies will present the bill and say, pay up. It's time to pay up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're left with the fallout and the devastation. Our life has been, oh my gosh, just trying to deal with this has been a walking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, children are resilient. God designed our bodies to be incredibly resilient and to survive horrific things. But that doesn't mean that we should just be okay with it and expect the children to be okay with it, because eventually the children grow up and wonder, where was the help? Why wasn't I protected?
Mm-hmm.
Where were the trusting adults? Where were the safe people? Where was the love? Where was the love to shield me from all of this garbage? Where was it? And they will ask, and they will wonder, why didn't you do something? I know, I kind of got ahead. I knew that was coming up.
So
my rants were not planned. Sorry.
So we're wondering now, the real life that's been going on in the Long family, and maybe other families, right? Maybe if you're watching this.
If you can stand horror films, please go watch it. It's brilliant.
I think the one made in the 90s was better.
That one was better.
It
was more of an accurate representation.
Yeah, it's
it was
a little slower paced than the more modern actiony one.
Yeah, I feel like the modern one, they took a little, I don't know.
It does a better job of, you really see the metaphor of that this really is child abuse.
Yeah.
We're wondering now, is it actually dead, or is it going to come back for the next generation? Most of the Long children are grown now, so maybe they're not at risk. But what about the next generation? Because many are married.
And have their own children.
Yes. And we know for a fact that already one member of the next generation has been touched.
Sexually, but then they've also there's others that have been abused physically.
True. So it's already
continuing.
The wave is building.
I'm done with it. I really do not want my nieces and nephews to suffer anymore. I'm done with we have to stop.
Do you want to speak to your Long siblings, or do you want me to?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So Long siblings, if you're watching, and I know most likely you are, one day, your children will find this video series. I kind of needed that.
I'm sorry.
And those of you who have committed crimes in your teens, they will ask you, Mommy, why didn't you get help? Why didn't you get help? Or if you were only a victim of all of this, they will ask you, why didn't you speak out? Why did you help to cover up the truth and protect abusers? Why didn't you join with Haley in putting an end to the abuse? Why? There will be questions. The piper must be paid at some point. Silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. Time is running out, and the choice is yours. Which action are you going to take?